South Florida is known for its world-class beaches and its world-renowned resorts. But every April, the collector car world takes center stage. Neon gives way to chrome. The crash of the waves gives way to the rumble of the engines. Barrett-Jackson is here, and with it, the best collector cars in the world. Exotic elegance, groundbreaking performance, historic muscle, TV legends, classic cruisers, and breathtaking customs. So let's fire it up and kickstart the 2026 Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach auction right now on FYI.
The sun is up and the cars are shining here in Palm Beach. It's time for Barrett-Jackson, the world's greatest collector car auction. Beautiful weather here in South Florida, and over the course of the next 3 days, Palm Beach becomes the center of the collector car universe. It's a time when horsepower, high stakes, and of course heritage are all going to combine, get together as people try to buy some of the automotive icons that have shaped American culture. And the interesting thing is each one of the cars crossing the block has its own story, and some lucky bidder is going to get a chance to write that next chapter. As always, we've assembled the best team in the business to bring you all the great information you need to know more. We're going to start with Mike Joy and Steve Mugnante, who are standing by in the McGuire staging lanes.
Well, thanks, Rick, and hi, everybody. If there is a theme to the Palm Beach auction, it is drop tops, convertibles, particularly high-end European ones. There are lots of them here today. We'll have trucks, we'll have Blazers and Broncos, we'll have resto mods, we'll have full classics. It's a wide variety, and that's why this auction is so successful, Steve. There's something here for everybody.
Well, there really is. Muscle cars, late model prestige cars, SUVs, etc. But our job will be to show the cars to you at home and tell you what they are and what they're not.
Well, there's also money in the house, Rick. A Volkswagen Dune Buggy, the kind that we used to assemble for, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000. Just rock the block for $40,000.
Yeah, you never know what the big sales of the day are going to be until you get into the auction arena. Thanks a lot, guys. And there's no shortage of great cars. More than 500 that are crossing the block over the course of the next 3 days. And, of course, we need to check in with the final two members of our broadcast team. We'll start with the host of Hoovy's Garage. Here's Tyler Hoover.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, here's my pick of one of the big sellers I think is going to happen today. 1959 Chevy Apache, the second generation of Chevy's luxury pickup truck. It's hard to believe they were trying it back in the 1950s, but the Cameo before it sort of set stage, and the Apache refined it. So the easiest way to tell is the quad headlights in the front. That's the big difference between the previous gen and the first year of the Apache. And also, they went with this fleet side bed. It was the first year for that, and all steel. Unlike the Cameo that was fiberglass. Now, this one has been nicely upgraded. You can see those Krager wheels, and also when you go up, it has this gorgeous wood bed, and it's been upgraded in the suspension and the drivetrain as well. 5.3-liter V8 under hood, and, you know, a lot of the luxury comforts. It doesn't have air conditioning, but actually back in the 1950s, the Chevy Apache was the first truck to offer air conditioning as an option. So, yeah, first luxury pickup truck, or one of the first right here. I know April Rose has found something beautiful here in the tents as well.
That's right, Tyler. I found this beautiful 1957 Bel Air. Now, she's an original survivor, and she's gorgeous. She had one repaint in the original color of colonial cream. And get this, all the dealer accessories you could dream of. You got the sun visor here, visors on the window, and there's this original invoice. You see all of these dealer installs, everything you could imagine put on there. And I love 57 because you got the 7 right here in the tail fin, only year for that. Fender skirts in the trunk, Continental kit. I mean, she is glorious. RJ, come on up front. Check her out inside. This is all original interior, and it has really low miles, about 15,000 on the odometer, and you can tell it shows. This looks pristine. More dealer accessories like this traffic light viewer. You got your compass, even a tissue box holder down there. Rick, for me, I'm going to pick this one as the top seller. What do you think?
I tell you what, that's got everything anybody would want with a 57. And of course, people are always surprised when they find out that was actual factory interior. That's the way it looked when it came out of the factory back in the 50s. Okay, great coverage over the course of the next 3 days. Today, we're on 5 hours right here on FYI. Friday, we come back at 11 a.m., go to 6 p.m., and then Sunday, well, 11 to 6 p.m., but on Saturday, I should say, all day on the History Channel from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Plenty of great cars that will be crossing the block and all kinds of automotive action and intrigue. You're not going to want to miss a single minute. So pull up a chair, get a cooler, make some sandwiches. Barrett-Jackson is coming straight to you. Well, moments ago, I said it's always a surprise. The top seller so far right now is a 1973 Volkswagen Thing convertible. That's right, a Thing. 1.6-liter four-cylinder Volkswagen engine, bright yellow, and everybody loved it here in the room. It sold for $65,000. It proves you never know what's going to happen here at Barrett-Jackson. This 1973 VW Thing crossed the block, that classic VW styling with that VW engine in the back, bright yellow. It sold for $65,000. And right now, that is the #1 sale of the day. And the #2 sale, well, that's a VW Dune buggy. So 2 VW engines, #1 and #2. Rolling up on the block now, pure luxury, a 1983 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur.
Again, we get a lot of these high-end European cars because Palm Beach and South Florida is a huge market for them, both new and used, and collectible. I see a little bit of patina here on the bumper and the other polished surfaces. There's the Spirit of Ecstasy up above the grill, and there's that big Rolls-Royce fuel-injected V8. So this is a car that, of course, has been driven and enjoyed, and it's a great car to be driven in rather than to drive because there is tons of rear seat room. Those trays fold down just like the one on the seat back in front of you on your flight, except these are much nicer. Footrests, a lot of burled wood, a lot of leather, a lot of luxury.
Of course, the Silver Spur, the long wheelbase version of the Silver Spirit. That is exactly why you have all that great legroom in the back. And you have to look at those doors and realize that that passenger door in the back, the second row, is just a little bit longer than what the driver gets to get in. So it's very luxurious, a perfect car to be driven around in as opposed to just driving yourself. All that extra legroom makes a difference. 6.75-liter V8 3-speed automatic transmission. And the great thing, according to the consignor, is that this car recently got serviced. Everybody's concerned about the prices of these on the resale market because nobody wants to do the repairs on them. So the fact that they've had a recent service says a lot to the next buyer who's going to be taking this car home. So let me get this straight. A Rolls-Royce just sold for $11,000 and a VW Thing sold for $65,000.
Takes 2 bidders. That's all it takes is 2 committed bidders, Rick.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we had for that VW Thing. A 1987 Jeep Wrangler Custom up on the block.
Well, like many of them that come to Barrett-Jackson, this one has been given a lift, aftermarket shocks, big front bumper, aftermarket winch. This one has the 4.2-liter inline 6-cylinder Jeep engine, 5-speed manual transmission, and 4-wheel drive with a dual range transfer case. So this one's ready to go just about anywhere you'd like. And again, to our Palm Beach theme, it is a convertible. See a little bikini top here, but don't see evidence of a folding top or hard top. So have your fun in the sun.
Of course, I think 87 was the beginning of the Wrangler era, replaced the CJ7.
Big wheels and tires, much bigger than it was born with. Aftermarket bumpers and this roll cage, and they're going to roll it away off the center stage to put a little more pressure on the bidders in the house, or perhaps on the phone or on the internet. A lot of different ways you can bid here at Barrett-Jackson.
And away that's going to go for $10,500 for that 1987 Jeep Wrangler, that 4.2-liter, 6-cylinder motor. And with that, we're going to check in with April Rose, who's found a very special guest.
Oh, the most special guest I could find, Craig Jackson, CEO of Barrett-Jackson. It's been a wild day so far, but I do want to check in. Scottsdale in January was off the hook, incredible. Sold almost $200 million worth of cars, Craig. A lot of records broken there.
It was spectacular, and across the board, the cars performed very well. And it was by design how we slowed down a little bit on some of those big cars to get all the money. But across the board, consigners were super happy, buyers, the energy in the room. And it started that way with the party last night, and the room is packed today. There's people lined up to register to bid, and I really feel like the collector car market is hitting its stride. People want to buy cars and go enjoy life. It has been a trend since COVID, and you're even seeing it getting more and more steam. People want to come and enjoy life.
Well, and Barrett-Jackson, I do have to say, sets a lot of these trends, first with resto mods. And now today I'm going to see a lot of square bodies that have been beautifully restored. Where do you see that going? Because the value of those square bodies are just going up.
They are, and actually there's rumors that GM may bring that back. So who knows what the rumor mill is. They're iconic, and I remember them when they were brand new, and I drove one back in the day, so I love those. But Broncos, SUVs of all type, have really in Scottsdale set the bar. And here you've got, even on Thursday, some great cars coming and trucks coming across the block. And I think it's going to be a great kickoff to 3 wonderful days here in Palm Beach.
That's right. We've already seen a Volkswagen thing go for $65,000. Are we going to see anything else like that later?
Oh, I think so, as you hit into prime time. But that was a wild card. You never know. And they're unique. And all it takes is 2 people that want that dream vehicle.
That's right. That's why you have to come to Barrett-Jackson to see it yourself. Rick, we're going to get you back to the block.
All right, thanks a lot. Yeah, and I mentioned that it was a Volkswagen Thing in number 1, a Dune Buggy number 2, and a Toyota MR2 is the 3rd highest seller of the day. It's always something different. Up in the block, a 2011 Mercedes-Benz E350 convertible.
Thanks, Rick. By the way, that MR2 was a 4-cylinder supercharged and intercooled version with T-tops and an automatic, so it was a very rare piece. Here we are back in European convertibles. The E-Class is the mid-size Mercedes. It goes C, then E, then S-Class. This one in Mars Red with some AMG factory wheels. 3.5-liter V6, 7-speed automatic. Power top, of course. Heated seats, dual climate control. And something that's really neat here, Mercedes calls it the air scarf between the seat and the headrest. When you're driving top down in cool weather, this blows warm air on the back of your neck. So you are just luxuriously transported to another dimension.
Mercedes-Benz engineered the engine bays on these to accommodate a V12, a V8, or the V6, seen in this example.
Dimensionally, this car is a little closer to the C Series or the CLK Series, but they chose to move it up market and badge it as an E-Class when this was introduced.
You'll notice we've got an internet bidder in the mix, a gentleman on the lower right-hand side. He's the one who represents the internet bid, and it looks like internet won this time. Remember, you can bid multiple ways. That's just one of the ways you can do it here at Barrett-Jackson. $11,000 for that Mercedes convertible. Great day here in South Florida, Palm Beach. Plenty of people out to enjoy both the weather and the great cars that are crossing the auction block here at Barrett-Jackson. That's the staging lanes. That's where the cars rest before they come into the thick of the action. And right now we got a 1940 Mercury 8 up on the block.
Well, the 8, of course, refers to the 239 cubic inch flathead V8 under the hood of these. I'm not sure when this car was restored, but probably in the 80s as it was treated to an upgraded AM/FM cassette stereo. Anybody still have one of those?
Now, Mercury was started in 1939 to compete against Oldsmobile and Buick and DeSoto, and this does have the 239 cubic inch flathead V8. The Ford would have had a 221. The Mercury and the Ford were similar but not the same. The fenders and the hood are different. The rear fenders have a bit of a skirt effect, whereas the Ford fender would be fully radius. So little differences make the difference between a Ford and a Mercury in this year. Of course, Mercury lived from 1949 through 2010.
You get it? 2-5, hit 10-2-5, hit 10-5.
And this was indeed the second year for the Mercury 8. They first came out with this, as you mentioned, in 1939, and they had to stop down for the World War II, but then came back producing them in about 1946.
Not everybody loves the bustle back styling, but it is quite aerodynamic, and it makes for a very large trunk.
Plenty of room back there. $10,500 for that 1940 Mercury 8. That great flathead engine underneath the hood. 2016 Mercedes-Benz, this is an E400 Cabriolet.
Well, like the V6 powered version we saw just a bit ago in red, here we are in a beautiful gray metallic, and this has the AMG styling package. Look at this big, deep front apron with splitters and the big nostrils for intaking air to the radiators and, let's say, brake cooling. AMG specific alloy wheels, red leather interior, paddle shift automatic.
This does have the V6, however, it's turbocharged, so it has the power of a V8, but the fuel economy of a V6.
So what's holding the number back? Well, it could be the odometer. 84,000 actual miles on this one. I do like the hard tonneau behind the rear seat here and the little air scarf wind blocker, but these look like headrest fairings in the back here that cover the convertible top when down.
13 down here on the stage, gonna be 13. 12 pound, 13 down, down 13 down, 16 down, 13 down, 13 5, 13 5, 13 5, 13,000 5, 13 14, now 14 down, not waiting now, 14 down, down 14 down, 14,000, down 14, 14 down, 14, 16, tell them again, 14 5, now 5, 2.5 5. Go ahead, Shane.
Here is the 2016.
Dual exhausts and a diffuser there below the rear bumper. And this is an E400, so it has the V8 rather than the V6 power. Plenty of low-end torque in these.
Now, what looks like aftermarket wheels on this are actually factory Mercedes items from the AMG catalog. Of course, factory stuff, not aftermarket chromies.
16 about 16,000 all through and all done. 16,000, 16,000 down 16, 16 to bit, 16 about 16,000, 16,000, 16,000, 17,000 down 16,000, and now give me 5, 16, 5. No, sir, I got 16, 17. Now
Yeah, think about it. Just 10 years old, and yet the price has dropped quite a bit. Of course, the combination of the mileage together with the fact that the accident report shows that it's had a couple of minor accidents is probably holding back the top number. But still, a lot of fun you can have for $16,500. Now, in addition to the amazing cars that sell here at Barrett-Jackson, every morning they sell some spectacular automobilia. So here's Roy Brinkman with just a sampling.
South Florida is calling for the 2026 Barrett-Jackson Automobilia Auction. I'm Roy Brinkman, Automobilia Director, and we'll be selling over 300 fantastic and amazing items, all at no reserve. So let's get started checking out all the cool pieces that will be crossing the block. 1950s Route 66 coin-operated souvenir magnet vending machine. Historic Route 66 was the ultimate road trip, starting in urban Chicago and all the way to the Pacific Ocean, ending in Santa Monica. You would stop along the way and pick up souvenirs to remind you of this amazing trip. this stellar 1920s Francisco auto heater single-sided litho tin sign. Features a stately 1920s Packard-style sedan crossing a snow-covered landscape. And most importantly, the passengers are being kept warm by a perfectly functioning Francisco auto heater. You're looking at an all-original 1978 Bally Playboy pinball machine, found in all original condition and plays exceptionally well. It features America's Playboy Hugh Hefner with some of his models and the grotto imagery in the background. This is a 1920s Sinclair Oil correct measure visible gas pump. It's commonly referred to as a pipe organ model. Reason being is that the mechanism actually resembles a pipe organ. A station attendant would use his hand pump to fill the glass cylinder. He would then select the amount to be dispensed. So if a motorist only wanted 1 gallon of gasoline, the very top pipe would open. Each pipe after that corresponds to 1 more gallon of gasoline. But probably the biggest item we're going to be selling is this 15-foot tall, late 1970s, early 80s Gulf Oil double-sided light-up service station sign on the original pole. This is a great example. Both faces are all original and untouched. When you're decorating, it's nice to have some freestanding, three-dimensional items to add some depth to your collection.
And while some of those are great entry-level pieces, some of those will also sell for big, big money. It's become quite a hobby. Up on the block right now, a 2016 Maserati Ghibli SQ4.
Well, the Ghibli name was first applied to a 2-seat Grand Touring car to rival the Ferrari Daytona. Maserati brought it back about a decade ago for their mid-size sedan. Lots of luxury here, and particularly the interior of these. Just gorgeous leather and burled wood in a mid-size package. And this car could be bought for about the same price as an E-Class Mercedes, just under $80,000. A very capable performing car with its twin turbocharged V6.
The Maserati logo is a stylized rendition of King Neptune's tridents right there. It's Maserati's logo.
You got 12, is that right? 12 pound. I had 11 on the stage, Ron. Going to be 12 up there. I got 11 up here at Camille. Going to be 12. 11 down, now 13. Now 13 down. Thought so. 13 down, not a 9 through. Now you're done. 13 down, not a down. So 12, 13 down.
Well, 400 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $12,000. And with that, we're going to check in with Tyler Hoover.
Yeah, speaking of Maserati, I think they had an incredible comeback around the year 2000, and this Cambio Corsa really is the reason for it. So you see down here the design house, Giugiaro, legendary designer, penned this beautiful look, and it sort of gave you a budget Ferrari, if you will. Come look inside, you can see the rich leather interior, and it got a lot of Ferrari-derived bits. So you look right here at the steering wheel, you have a paddle shift F1 style transmission. The levers down here is what put it in reverse, and you have an automatic mode. You even have a gold-plated clock there right in the center. But the biggest part, the big comeback for Maserati is the choice of drivetrain. So you see under hood, you get a Ferrari-derived V8 engine, naturally aspirated, 390 horsepower, and this one only has 20,000 miles on the odometer, in sort of Ferrari red as well. I think Maserati sort of lost their way after this, going to twin-turbo V6s, and of course Ferrari is part of the reason why. They didn't want to help Maserati anymore. They quit providing engines, and also they sort of got away from the styling as far as the design houses like Giugiaro and Pininfarina. But I think this is prime Maserati right here, at least for me.
Well, and it's a long way from that Maserati B-Turbo. Remember that thing? So that's a great era for the Maserati. Right now we got a 1979 Camaro Custom.
Well, this one may have been born as a Berlinetta or an LT, but they have added Z28 front fenders and Z28 badges. The consigner on the sheet that's on the windshield says this has a 327 V8, but that's an engine that was phased out long before this car was ever built.
Well, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $25,500 for that 1979 Camaro Custom. No shortage of Mercedes coming across the block. This is Palm Beach, after all. How about a 2007 Mercedes-Benz CLK Cabriolet?
So we have the E-Class Cabriolet, which is actually the same body and same chassis as this CLK. This is the Designo edition. which in Mercedes parlance means you get a special color not available on normal cars inside and out. Designo silver, beige leather, nice burled wood. This has factory navigation, and this is a low miler, only 38,000 on the clock.
Yeah, that great V6 engine pumps out about 268 horsepower, 7-speed automatic transmission. More importantly, it's convertible. And as Craig Jackson was talking about at the beginning of our broadcast, a lot of people looking for something fun to do. It doesn't get much more fun in Palm Beach than having a great-looking Mercedes with the top down.
There is an AMG badge on the trunk. I guess it's easier to add a $20 badge than a $20,000 AMG V8 package, but that's okay. There are a lot of people who like to look the part. They don't actually have to be the part.
It's amazing how much performance just that little adhesive adds when you stick it on the back of the car.
Yeah,
you
paint
just
stripes on it. Paint stripes make it go faster.
You just feel like you're moving fast.
There you go.
You know, base price for this probably would have been $55,000, $60,000, and that would have been $9,000 or 9 years ago. Now it's got almost 40,000 miles on it. We're only at $16,000. Now, something about the Mercedes badge on the gentleman's shoulder who's bidding makes me think he's in it to win it. $17,000 for that 2007 Mercedes-Benz CLK 350, the cabriolet convertible. Put the top down. You can enjoy all the beautiful air blowing across your face here in South Florida. We're going to take a quick break, but look at all those cars. That's the kind of weekend we're going to have. That's just a taste of the modern performance we're going to see crossing the block over the course of the next 3 days. And right now, how about a modern Cadillac, an XLR convertible from 2004. And it just sold for $11,000. Wait a minute, have they sold it? He sounded like he brought the hammer down. But I'm seeing $11,500, and now he sold it at $11,500 for that 2004 Cadillac XLR. All right, time to move back a few decades to 1965, a nice black 1965 Mustang.
Mustang's second full model year. A total of 680,989 were built. Needs to say that hotcakes were selling like Mustangs. None of these things were very popular, and they started the pony car craze right here, second year for it, 1965.
Black over red, pretty popular combination. And this one, a 289 four-barrel carb, 4V and premium fuel, they spell out there on the air cleaner. This one's had a recent paint job, and it has the pony interior, full console, and like every Mustang ever built, floor-mounted shifter.
This has been upgraded with disc brakes up front. Of course, the Magnum 500 wheels were not available in 1965. We'll come along a couple years later, but nice to add these things. It's sort of a greatest hits. And the 289 is a great little engine, small block, good power. Grew into the 302.
So the Mustang debuted in April 1964 at the New York World's Fair. But all of those early cars sold in 64 all had 1965 identification numbers. So call it a 64, call it a 65, potato, potato, you know.
I'll call it $32,000. How's that sound? For a 1965 Mustang 289 C4 automatic transmission. Barrett-Jackson.com is the place to go to get all the information about the cars that are crossing the block. They call it a docket, just the list of cars that you're going to see over the course of the next 3 days. Like this very unique 1958 Cadillac, very custom sport roadster.
Well, they shortened it up and shrunk it a bunch. Somebody took a Cadillac and sectioned it right here where the back seat used to be and tried to make it into, I guess, an interpretation of a Corvette with the short wheelbase. The Cadillac V8 back then was the choice of hot rodders, but Steve, this is a very unique treatment.
That's right, 2 feet have been sliced out of this. There's no doors. You have to jump over like a CJ5 Jeep to get in and out. And somewhere Harley Earl is either cheering or jeering at what's been done to his creation. I like the wire wheels. They're real. They're not hubcaps. Nice to see the actual Cadillac power plant under the hood, not an Alice motor. Nice work on the fins, the tail fins there, and of course, second year for the tail fins.
34 inches taken out of that wheelbase. 58 the first year for quad headlamps on the Cadillac, and the quad tail lights repeat that theme.
At the back, you see at the bumper, the ends of the bumper, those vertical slots are the original exhaust. However, the aftermarket pipes coming out the bottom are aftermarket add-ons, of course, but the original pipes would have come out through those vents right there. Beautiful styling of the exhaust pipe as art.
You know, Mike, I could just see, Lyndon Johnson cruising around his ranch in one of these things. He liked to have a little bit of fun with his passengers, and I think this would be a perfect way to do it. $28,000 for a 1958 Cadillac Custom Sport with nearly 3 feet taken out of the length. Well, if you'd like to test your collector car knowledge and perhaps win a great prize in the process, you are definitely going to want to play Fantasy Bid, brought to you by Dives. Now, all you have to do is go to promo.barrettjacksonfantasybid.com to register and to play. What you're going to do is you're going to try to predict the winning bid of select auction vehicles that will cross the block this coming Saturday, April 18th. The overall winner at the end of all 4 of the 2026 Barrett-Jackson auctions will get the grand prize. That's a 2026 Dodge Charger Scat Pack Plus. And if you're really on top of your game this week and you can predict the exact final bid of all 12 Fantasy Bid vehicles, you could win $100,000. We call it the Perfect 12 Jackpot, so make sure you register and play. Terms and conditions apply. You have to be 18 to play. Just remember, visit promo.barrettjacksonfantasybid.com for all of the official rules. Up on the block now, pickup truck time. A 1982 GMC K1500 Custom.
It's a long bed. It is a 4-wheel drive. It's been upgraded with a ZZ4 350 with 350 horsepower. It's a General Motors crate engine. Put it in, turn the key, and go.
$28,000, same price as that Cadillac just sold for. So a matching set. All right, we're going to segue from that nice long bed pickup truck from 1982, move forward to 2012 in a BMW 650i convertible.
I had the coupe version of this, and it was a very capable and very luxurious long-distance tourer, and you could go corner carving in it as well. The odometer here shows 75,000 miles, and this car had a lot of options, safety-oriented, that we now take for granted, like lane departure warning, blind spot detection, side view, top view, and rear view cameras.
This is powered by a 4.4-liter V8 with twin turbos. In other words, compound turbos, a smaller one for initial boost and a larger one for high RPM use. And 400 horsepower, straight 400 horsepower. A lot of power in a BMW. Rear-wheel drive, of course, beautiful automobile.
This is one of the few convertibles that I've often said actually looks really good with the top up. So often tops are kind of clunky looking. You take them down, you get convertible, it looks great. But this car, the 6 Series, looks great with the top up.
I love that the top stack is hidden completely beneath the panel here. And the rear window on this car, the glass rear window, is vertical. And it comes up right here and is a wind block, can be used as a wind blocker when the top is down. Otherwise, it hides in plain sight.
Awful lot of car for $12,000. That 2012 BMW 650i. Moving on to another German-based machine, a Mercedes-Benz. This one is a CL600 from 2007.
So this was the Beverly Hills Executive Express. I think every studio head in Southern California drove one of these, and most of them had the optional V12. For a 2+2 touring coupe, you couldn't do much better than this.
Yeah, these are amazing. I used to live in Los Angeles for years, and we used to see billboards for these things. Banana, these things had 612 foot-pounds of torque out of that big V12 twin turbos, 510 horsepower. The horsepower race in German cars kind of starts right here.
Now this has an interesting option called Distronic. The 3-pointed star, this is a plate here, and that covers up the radar for the distance-maintaining cruise control. It would actually keep you from getting too close to the car ahead. Again, a feature that's on a lot of even low-price cars today, but back then that was a very expensive and rare option. Distronic.
Yeah, we thought it was very futuristic back then, and as you mentioned, these days it's hard to find a car without it, and it's just such a great safety feature. You know, when you're up on the highway, you set that cruise control, it's adaptive, it knows where the car is ahead of you.
And on the front fenders, the V12 emblems are very discreet, but there's 612 foot-pounds of torque on tap.
$19,000 to that gentleman right there for the 2007 Mercedes-Benz CL600. You never know, maybe he's going to start his own movie studio, Mike, and then he can look just right cruising around in that thing. Here's the car that Tyler Hoover previewed, a 2002 Maserati Spider GT Cambio Corsa.
Now these cars are enjoyed and collected today. It's a two-seat Maserati, but I'm going to go so far as to say that when this car was new in 2002, it was viewed as a mistake. Yes, it had a Ferrari-derived engine, had great suspension, cornered well, accelerated well, but look at it. It looks like a big Miata. It doesn't look like the exotic performance promised. The looks were just too pedestrian, and as a result, these didn't sell very well.
As Tyler had mentioned, this was when, a few years after, I should say, that Ferrari took control of Maserati, but this is the first year that they brought this to the United States, I believe. But yeah, it's a fun little car. Look at the price, $13,000, considering you're getting that great Ferrari power plant. Of course, that's always the good and the bad, right? You know, it's got that exotic power plant underneath the hood, but it also costs exotic prices to repair it.
Yeah, it's Rosso Corsa over beige. It has paddle shifters. It's a beautifully built car, but Maserati was far removed from its racing heritage, and these just got a reputation as being the boulevard car, the mistress car, if you will. And as I said, they didn't sell very well, but today they are pretty rare, and again, they're great performers. This one, very low miles. I would think it would do better.
Yeah, 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, which, while you could do faster than that today, you got to remember this was 2002, so it was pretty reasonable. It's got that great, Skyhook adaptive suspension system, which makes this a nice handler as well. So a lot of performance here. I think I'm with Tyler. I think this is a sleeper, and I think it deserves more attention than it's getting.
Notice the factory alloy wheels with positive offset at the front and negative offset at the back. They're not the same size or shape, but gives a nice look to this. Sort of
$20,000, that is exactly how many miles are on the clock, so I would call that well bought.
That's a deal, $20,000 for that Maserati Spider GT Cambio Corsa from 2002. As it drives away, we are going to go away for just a moment, but I promise we're coming back because there's a lot of great cars that will be crossing the block here on Thursday. No shortage of chrome and beautiful paint, and check that out. That car used to be owned by Kyle Busch, or currently is owned by Kyle Busch. It's going to be sold this weekend. It's one of two cars that he's selling. And that's out of the Showcase Pavilion. Really some of the best that are going to be crossing the block before our 3 days are up. Meanwhile, up on the block right now, we've got a 1966 Mustang.
Well, second year for the mighty Mustang Pony Car, which of course launched the Pony Car segment. This one has the optional 289 two-barrel engine, which was an extra $105 over the base six-cylinder engine. Money well spent, if you ask me. Has sort of aftermarket, well, they're Ford hubcaps that look like steel wheels, but they're actually hubcaps. They're made of metal, but the actual steel wheel behind them is just a regular unadorned piece. These are appliques, not the real thing, but they look cool.
I love this color. They call it Arcadian blue. It looks like white with a bluish tinge. It really doesn't look blue, but it's a cool looking color on this Mustang. Bottom covers, 66 side trim there behind the door. That's the identifying mark. And vinyl tops. The Mustang hardtop roof was shaped to kind of look like a convertible top, and a lot of these were given vinyl tops in the mid-60s. By the way, Rick, Kyle Busch and his wife Samantha will be here to sell those cars tomorrow and help raise some money for their great charity, the Bundle of Joy Fund, that helps couples with IVF, in vitro fertilization.
Yeah, and there's some fun stories behind that, so we look forward to hearing about that tomorrow when they cross the block. And solid money, this is closing in. It's now the number 3 sale of the day. Question is, does it come up to number 2 for this 1966 Mustang with that 289?
Underneath the dashboard, we see the 4 vents of the hang-off-the-dash air conditioning system. Most of these cars were not ordered by the dealers with factory air, so dealer-added air conditioning, as this has, was very popular.
Well, $38,000 is what it took to buy that if you wanted a 1966 Mustang, 289 engine, automatic transmission, power steering, and power brakes. Stay in the Ford world. We're going to move back to 1940, a deluxe Tudor, but this one's a custom.
Indeed it is. Of course, in Stockland, 1939 was the first year for hydraulic brakes. This does have him. His disc brakes up front and radically modified. Chevy small block, someplace Henry Ford's grave is bumping up and down. With that said, the small block Chevy is a great fit in these things. A lot of power, aftermarket aluminum intake, got some cast iron manifolds, which is nice. They won't leak like a header might. Nice work here.
Yeah, very nicely done. These center line wheels, maybe they're not the most attractive or the most uniquely styled, but they are very, very lightweight. And lighter wheels means less unsprung weight for the suspension and less rotating mass, so more of that horsepower gets to the ground.
The two-door Custom is a great car if you have a family, more back seat room than a little coupe would have had. So 3 in the back, 3 in the front, 6 people potentially. Split window in the back, not just for Corvettes. Nice restoration here, done up in Canada.
Yeah, this bright yellow color and that gray mouse fur upholstery was not part of the Ford catalog back in 1940. You know, if this were a four-door, I'd put some checkerboards down the side and some taxi emblems and maybe a meter on the dash. What do you think, Rick?
Absolutely. You know, the great thing is to think about what Ford looked like just a decade before this, right? In 1930. Boy, we'd just come out of the Model T era, going into the Model A's. It was very different. That 1940 Ford Deluxe was sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $20,000. And once again, there's no shortage of great stuff. Plenty of customs, plenty of resto mods. Who knows what you're going to see crossing the block. Supercar performance. And everyone is going to go home with that sold sticker because there are plenty of bidders here with waving their bidders passes to buy one thing or another. 1940 Ford Deluxe is going home to a new owner. Well, that's a wrap on our first hour of live coverage here on FYI, but we're just getting started. So make sure you stay with us because we've got 4 more action-packed hours ahead. Welcome to the world's greatest collector car auction. This is Barrett-Jackson, Palm Beach, and we are just hitting our stride here on Thursday in the Sunshine State. The vehicles are getting better and better, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride because the cars crossing the block are just getting better as we go through the day. I'm Rick DeBrule with Mike Joy, Steve Magnante, Tyler Hoover, April Rose, a great group of people. And we'll explain why these cars are special, what makes them bring a lot of money or maybe a little less money as the case may be. Right now, a 2009 Mercedes-Benz SL 550 Roadster.
Well, this is the facelift version. When this car debuted in 2003, it had the dual fried egg headlights. This is the facelift. They put the parking light turn signal up here and the headlight here. This has the AMG styling package, which includes the front and rear apron and these special alloy wheels. The interior color, they called it stone, but it's actually a very attractive two-tone beige and taupe, if you will. A lot of burled walnut. The pop-up roll bar, which you can raise yourself to add the wind blocker here, or which will pop up automatically in the case of a rollover. And this is the extra performance AMG version, not an AMG styling kit, excuse me. This is an SL55, so it has the supercharged V8.
Indeed it does. 5.5 liters, 382 horsepower, and 391 foot-pounds of torque. The engine bay can also accept a V12 in certain situations.
Yeah, this is the one you wanted. This is the performance version of Mercedes' very, very popular Boulevard Cruiser with this supercharged 8.
The consigner's only listing it as an SL 550, so I'm going to guess there's a little adhesive on the back right there.
So there was a 0 here, and I've been pranked. Thank you, Rick.
Just a guess, but I'm gonna, because the consigner has listed as an SL 550, that's what I'm gonna go with. Let's check out the McGuire staging lane. That's where Tyler Hoover's standing by.
Well, Mike and I had differing opinions earlier on that Maserati. I imagine we're going to have it on this because I think the 2006 Hummer H2 SUT is really, really cool. When it came out, kind of like the modern day Cybertruck, it's sort of a punchline 20 years ago because it's supposed to look like a Hummer, but it's kind of not. So the real Humvee would have had hooks right here that you could hook to a helicopter right to the frame and lift it up off the ground. These are just plastic. It helps you lift up the hood, but otherwise it's, you know, a really beefy looking Hummer front, but mostly a modified regular Chevy truck engine. So this one is the SUT, so 6-liter V8, but that T means truck. And when you come here in the back, well, it's kind of a, looks like at first glance, kind of a goofy little truck bed. So you can swing this wheel out and then put the tailgate down, and it is a teeny tiny little bed, as you can see. Looks pretty useless, but look at that panel here in the back. Much like the Chevy Avalanche, this all folds down into the cabin and you get like 6 feet of room. The glass can fold in as well, so it can actually be used as a practical truck, even though it does look like a big, ridiculous Humvee. I think these are really cool personally, and they are starting to get a little collectible.
Tyler, I appreciate what it is, but to me, that is the poster child for conspicuous consumption and excess disposable income.
Back in a time when everybody said, oh no, those SUVs are horrible, and now that's all we're selling, as a matter of fact. The 1971 Mercury Cougar XR7, a holdover. I love the convertible. It's up on the block right now.
Well, the Cougar debuted in 1967, got a total rebuild, a redesign for 1971. Of course, convertibles are available in Cougarland in 69. Onward, this is a 71. Of course, no more hideaway headlights for 1971. The second generation body here, bigger than the original first gen.
Well, I'm a first-gen Cougar fan. The top-of-the-line model was the XR7G. For Gurney, my hero, Dan Gurney, raced these in the Trans Am. So did Parnelli Jones. Bud Moore built the cars. But to me, when they restyled the Cougar and enlarged it for 71, it got bloated, it got heavy. It ceased to become a Euro-style sports version of a pony car and became just another boulevard cruiser.
The Mustang fell prey to the same enlargement. Now, this one here is an H-code car, which means 351 Cleveland with a 2-barrel. Dual exhaust have been added to it, but a good cruiser. But again, a convertible Cougar is a pretty unusual car.
Now, this was supposed to be an upscale car. Remember, it was from Mercury. It was supposed to be a little cut above. Yeah, it had a lot of the same components you'd find in a Mustang, but it had a little longer wheelbase, a little more comfort.
Well, Mercury still wanted to be the sports car division of Ford. They were selling the Pantera in the showrooms alongside these Cougars, but the sporting pretenses of this car are, well, half a decade earlier.
Yeah, I never quite figured out what Mercury thought it wanted to be. It was supposed to be sort of a little bit above Ford, but at the same time, who knows? And by the way, this is the last year. I believe this is the very last year you could get a convertible in the Cougar body style.
Now, no 6-cylinder engines in Cougarland, strictly 351s or 429s.
$10,500, that kid. I don't know if he's talking to somebody on the phone, but congratulations. Whether he's talking to somebody who was helping him with the bid or he was just checking out and getting some opinions on what he just bought. Now, that's one great-looking Mercury, but here's Craig Jackson, who has an even a more amazing Mercury that's going to cross the line.
We have Jesse James 1949 Mercury Custom Coupe. This is lot number 760. Powered by a Chevrolet Performance Ramjet 502, 502 horsepower. That power rolls through the Turbo 400 transmission and connects to the Currie 9-inch rear end. The body features a custom chop on the top, the rounded off hood with the louvers, and the one-piece front end. So there are no gaps here between the fenders. A lot of customizing has been done. The interior features a custom billet dash, which is absolutely gorgeous, very Art Deco looking, and just all the workmanship around the doors. It really is a piece of art.
He's in the lead.
Just an example of what we're going to see crossing the block on Super Saturday here at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach. 2015 Chevy Silverado 1500 pickup on the block.
On a Z71, this is kind of the off-road version with the raised ride heights, big wheels and tires, but this one is sold on a salvage title.
And away it goes for $13,000. Let's check in with April Rose.
Hey, Rick, right now I'm in the pre-staging lanes. Well, not the pre, I'm in the actual staging lanes where anyone can come and check out these cars up close, like this 1960 Buick LeSabre. This is the Lanyard of Lanyard. She's huge, and I love that it comes to a point on the leading edge right there. Tons of chrome. You got your Buick shields up front, quad headlights, because excess is what it's all about. Gorgeous body lines all the way back. Buick's known for their famous venti ports. These are non-functional. You got your round sport mirrors, and I'm talking about that body line up front, which matches the wings in the back, sort of the end of the era for the fins. They slowly start to fold over. You got your rocket style tail lights. I mean, look at this massive trunk. It is huge. But RJ, check it out inside. Go ahead and look in there. Wow, this is something else, like a 50s diner in here. And I love this steering wheel. What is the purpose for this design? I don't know, Mike Joy might point something out, but it's just cool. It's all about style. The start of those padded dashes. You almost have an actual full clock up here on its own. Buick written across the dial on there. I mean, this is where it's at. Cars are not made like this anymore.
Boy, you look at all the edges, the ridges, all the styling. April, that is an absolutely beautiful car. Coming up, a 1950 Chevy 3100 pickup. It's got a 216 cubic inch inline six. It hasn't been boosted with a big V8. That's that Thriftmaster engine. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson, Palm Beach. Up the block right now. This is that SUT, the Sport Utility Truck. Tyler Hoover previewed just a little while ago, a 2006 Hummer H2.
And I guess Mike didn't like it so much that he left the block, so I'm up here to fill in for him. And why not get one last look at this beauty here? I mean, the Hummers, when they came in this civilian version in 2003, it was a pretty crazy deal. Of course, by the end of the decade, Hummer was no more. GM was bankrupt, but they were definitely trying to refine some things. So 2006, they came out with this truck version that was actually kind of handy. And I think they're cool, and you're starting to see, well, more than like used car money for them.
Yeah, more power than any H1 would have had. This has the 6-liter V8, the LS. It's the Gen 4 Chevy small block. Great engine. Almost 400 horsepower.
There are a lot of sort of fake things. So the bump on the hood is supposed to emulate a snorkel, which it doesn't have on either side. The hood does pop forward, the opposite way, much like the Humvee. But a lot of this stuff is sort of dressed up to look like it has some utility when it really doesn't. But some of the stuff's real. Like these hooks are definitely heavy duty and real, so you could tow some things. And it does have a low-range transfer case and that kind of stuff for some off-road utility. I get some of the criticism of the H2, but you wanted to make this thing nice and smooth on the highway as well, so I get the refinements versus doing another, crazy smaller version of the Humvee.
Speaking of towing, there's a bumper hitch receptacle on the front bumper, so you could back your boat out of the water going in reverse. So heavy-duty stuff and very functional, as you said, Tyler.
Well, $18,500. That's the hammer price for a 2006 Hummer H2 Sport Utility Truck. Rolling up behind it, we got a 2014 Mustang, but this one's pretty special. It's a Mustang GT. This one's a California Special.
Wood pays tribute to the California Specials that were built in the 1960s for sale in the Western sales region. And again, so it's a trim package. But with that said, there's some mechanical modifications. Of course, this is a 5th-gen Mustang, which arrived in 2010, which basically launched the pony car rebirth. The Challenger and the Camaro would not have happened if it wasn't for the 2010 Mustang. You see one here.
Yeah, the Coyote was a big deal when it came out for this body-style Mustang a few years earlier. And you can see the CS stripes going down the back and the badges as well. But they didn't do anything too different with the taillights on this one. Of course, the original California Special had those Shelby or Cougar-style taillights on them that really distinguished it. Now, with this one, they didn't go anything too crazy with the taillights.
And speaking of that Coyote dual-head cam V8, that arrived in 2011. Before that, there would be a 4.6-liter motor. So they really upped their game under the hood with the 5-liter Coyote engine. 414 horsepower.
18
Still a relatively rare car. I think they only built about 4,000 of these in 2014, which I think is pretty similar to the number of original GTCSs, which were built back in 1968, just a one-year option. The original GTCS was really just an appearance package for a Mustang. It had a lot of little Shelby touches to it. It wasn't really a performance package, but you could get a variety of different engines so you could increase the performance on your own.
I'm seeing an exhaust, so maybe a few performance modifications on this one, but an automatic transmission, and you see that retro interior. Mustang went retro in 2005, and I think it was a great move. Of course, there's a retro craze around that decade, but I think they really did a good job of refining it here and making it look less like a cartoon. I really love the look of this body style.
Yeah, agreed. Following on the heels of the 2005, the 2008 Challenger and the 2010 Camaro really relaunched the Pony Car Wars in Detroit.
Well, the GTCS has a new owner, $25,000 for the 2014 Mustang. Away it goes. We're going to step away as well. We will be right back, though, because there's too many great cars to miss even a minute here at Barrett-Jackson. Plenty of great cars. What do you want? You want a, Camaro? You want a Corvette? They are all here. Some amazing machinery that are all going to be crossing the block over the course of our 3 days of coverage here at the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction in Palm Beach. And plenty of people coming out to enjoy both the weather and the cars. Right now, this is the car that April Rose previewed, a 1960 Buick LeSabre convertible. Current bid is $37,000.
This thing is miles long, and it comes from the Boyd collection out of Henderson, North Carolina. First of about 10 cars they've brought here, a multi-generational family, brothers and uncles and cousins, all car collectors. And I like this. This is a beauty.
And the boys are sort of known for bringing these survivor-ish cars, or amazingly preserved cars, which is what this is. They believe it to be 75,000 original miles, probably a repaint, most likely. But I think the Brightworks all original, the interior is all original, so pretty close to a survivor.
Yeah, one of only, I think, about 8,500 convertibles that were made that year, and it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $35,500. You don't see a lot of this body style around anymore, so I think it's great that it's crossing the block. I think it's great that it looks so nice. 2007 Bentley Continental GTC convertible, and I could be wrong, but this kind of screams Barrett-Jackson to me. I don't know why.
It is Barrett-Jackson colors, that black and red, but I like calling these the Palm Beach Toyota Camry because they are everywhere. You go drive around, especially on the beach side of things, and pretty much you see more of these than Camrys. Now, you won't see them like this. This is totally custom as far as the paint job and the two-tone, the red-rimmed wheels. So they took a dramatic departure in the styling. Also, I think an extra bit of body kit, but you still get that W12 twin-turbo engine. And the drop top, I believe, came 1 year prior in 2006 on the Continentals.
Yeah, the body lines look pretty stock to me, Tyler, but all of the red pinstriping everywhere, the red stripe around the tires, and now you're showing me this front fender, and you are right with the chrome fender vents on the front, and yeah, it has been treated to be something that you kind of want to do a double take as you walk by it, because it is non-stop, but it's nicely done.
This is so of that MTV Pimp My Ride era where everybody's posing with their Bentleys and music videos and spending so much money modifying them, and that's what probably this was, a period build.
Yeah, we see plenty of these cross the block, plenty of GTCs, but none of them, to be honest with you, look quite like that one. So that gentleman right there has something interesting that his buddies are not going to have. A 2009 Mercedes-Benz SL63 Roadster is going to be across the block. But before we talk about that, let's remind you that if you want to go to Barrett-Jackson.com, that's where you can learn more about this car and all the other cars that are crossing the block. Barrett-Jackson.com. All right, let's take a look at this 2009 Mercedes-Benz SL63.
All right, I'll try not to be fooled again. This is the high-performance supercharged V8, but the AMG front apron could have that on a regular SL 550.
You got fooled. No supercharger on this one.
You got me again.
This is the 6.3 liter normally aspirated, so we're a few years away from that supercharged engine. But Mercedes made it confusing. I mean, come on, they had so many different engines. They went from supercharged to normally aspirated to now twin turbo V8, so they're all over the place. And they're adding AMG badges on things that aren't AMG built engines anymore. So what is an AMG? Obviously, back in the day, this was a true AMG and Mars Red, so this is a pretty special thing.
But look right here in front of the door at the fender vent, 6.3 AMG. This is no poser. This is the real deal. This is the factory hot rod.
This one's showing 78,000 miles on it, and that Mars Red color, I think, is a great pick for these. And yeah, you see all the luxury options, but then the AMG performance engine. And these have just such a fantastic exhaust note, being the normally aspirated V8. Sounds much more like an American hot rod than, say, a German, refined car. They're just so throaty, so amazing.
Little vestigial rear spoiler there at the edge of the trunk lid, and of course the folding hardtop.
Active suspension, so much technology on that, and it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $18,000, the 2009 Mercedes-Benz SL63. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be coming back. We promise. Back here at Palm Beach, right now we got a 2005 Cadillac XLR convertible up on the block.
$76,000 new, 45,000 actual miles. This was Cadillac's version of the Corvette. Chevy said, well, you can't use our drivetrain. You can use the chassis and suspension, but not our drivetrain. They said, that's okay. We've got the North Star V8, and that's what's in this.
Now 5.
Big pause as they try and figure out, do we have another bid? Do we not?
12.5, sir. Don't want to miss you. 12.5.
As Mike said, this is based on the C5 or C6 Corvette built in Bowling Green, Kentucky, but it is a Cadillac, and it's a fight in the bidding area for this.
Well, they got a couple more bids out of that one. $13,000 for that Cadillac XLR from 2005. Congratulations to those folks right there. Up on the block now, a 1986 Mercedes-Benz 560 SL Roadster.
Boy, I'd kind of forgotten how pretty these are. These were the ultimate boulevard car of the day. Never mind the big jutting bumpers. Those were federally required. This one's been given the chrome wheel treatment. And Tyler, I think that was entirely appropriate for this time. If it didn't go, you needed to chrome it. And all around Southern California and South Florida, we'd see these with chrome wheels and other neat individual styling touches.
Mike, we finally agree on something. I love the looks of these. I think the chrome definitely works because it goes all across the car. This one 110,000 miles on it, so that's going to be holding it back a little bit. It's been driven some, but what a long run for this body style. Came out in the early 70s, 71, 72, and went all the way to 1989 with several refinements along the way. The 560 SL was at the end of the run, starting in 86 this year, and usually the most desirable. There's some few AMG and Euro variants, but as far as the American versions, this is the top dog.
Note the chrome over the wheel wells. A very expensive touch, but something that you could order from the aftermarket and add to your SL.
I saw somebody walking around on the grounds here at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach this morning with a T-shirt, had a picture of one of these cars on it, and it said, if you don't own one, you don't understand. Because like you say, I mean, this is a car that a particular vintage of person really loves. I mean, if you were an executive in the late 70s through the 80s, this is the car you were driving.
The hardtop is currently on. It is removable, and there's the soft top underneath. And you can do this by yourself, so I have one of these at home, and it's called the turtle method, where you actually lift it up with your back in the cabin and sort of walk off with it on your back and then squat down. I could do it years ago, probably not now.
$20,000. Away it goes to a new owner, that 1986 Mercedes-Benz SL at 560. By the way, the consignor points out they have some of the service records all the way back to the year 2000 on that. So we know what's been happening to it. That's a good thing. All right, here's a car or in this case, a truck we previewed just a little while ago, a 1950 Chevy 3100.
Well, I saw this one on my last trip up to Henderson. It is part of the Boyd collection, and it's just beautiful. Now, okay, originally these grill bars might have been ivory. They were not chrome-plated. This one's been kind of given a dip-painted treatment with a bit of a pinstripe. Beautiful brown interior, and Tyler, everything on this looks pretty new. Inline 6, 3-speed manual transmission, you know, kind of looking very much the way it was born. And again, part of the Boyd collection of cars that have been preserved or restored to as original.
Yeah, I'd say a pretty faithful restoration overall. And one thing that kind of struck me when I first looked at these trucks, I saw a blue one. I thought, well, it wasn't originally blue because look at the door sills. They're a different color. They're kind of a taupe or a tan, so somebody did that. But actually, that's how they did it from the factory. All the door jambs and things were a different color from the body itself. So that is correct. Very nice.
This truck spent its first 70 years in Oklahoma before it came to North Carolina, so it's always been in a dry climate. And looks it. Great paint.
26,000.
Yeah, probably done some time ago, but still preserved well. The only thing showing some patina there is in the bed. The plywood wood bed could use a refinish, but otherwise, everything else looks really nice on this truck.
In the post-war era, you know, there's that big debate between Chevy and Ford. Ford were a little more probably technically, capable, but the Chevys, boy, they had great styling in this year, 1950, and that one just sold for $25,000. All right, from a 1950 Chevrolet, we're going to dial the clock back one full year to 1949, another 3100 coming up on the block.
Well, same song, second verse. This is also a Boyd truck from out of Henderson, North Carolina. Another 3 on the tree with a 216 cubic inch 6-cylinder Thriftmaster is what Chevrolet called these engines. They had plenty of torque, but also got decent gas mileage. A new braking system on this one, restored bodywork and trim to original.
And here's what I'm talking about again with those door jambs. It is correct that it would be a different color on the inside, sort of this tannish color. They didn't bother to paint. There's all one color for the interiors and the door jambs, and they painted the outside different colors. You can see the fuel filler here right on the cab. And this one, nicely refinished wood bed here.
Full running boards. And this one's been upgraded with some chrome. Particularly the grill bars have been chromed. I kind of like the touch of, see, this is what holds the tailgate closed on both sides, and it's a piece of chain with a hook. But the chain has been encased in a protective rubber sleeve so that it doesn't take all the paint off the tailgate and bodywork. Small hubcaps have been chrome trim rings have been added. And again, I like the chrome bars on this grill and the chrome headlight bezels. Gives this a really sharp look.
I like the fact that they've left the 6-cylinder in this. You know, that 6-cylinder overhead valve engine that goes back to 1929. $40,000. Pretty nice money for that 1949 3100 pickup truck. Away it goes. We're going to take a quick break. Oh, here at Barrett-Jackson, there's plenty of amazing machinery. Look at that. There's that 5 engines on the back of that boat. Because, you know, if you're not cruising around in a car, you got to be cruising around in something cool on the water. What a great day. We come here every spring to Palm Beach, and you can see why. I mean, great cars, but great weather and great people. A great chance to really enjoy the car collecting hobby here at Barrett-Jackson. Those are the cars that are rolling into the staging lanes. We'll see them up on the stop on the block real soon. Meanwhile, we got a 2019 GMC Sierra 1500 pickup.
Now this one's been given some upgrades. Kalahari inserts in the jet black interior. Has the off-road package, the AT4 package, so it's a little raised along with the trailering package and all. However, this one has a rebuilt title. That means at one point it was a salvage title car and then was perfected and rebuilt. That's on the vehicle history report, and that will hold the number back. Unfortunately, we have no information as to what caused that. It could have been a theft recovery. It could have been a vehicle that was involved in an accident. We just don't know, so the bidders will look it over very, very carefully before deciding on their number.
Yeah, it's easy to tell on the AT4 package with these. Other than the badging, they do the red tow hooks. The one thing I like about this one is it has the 5.3-liter V8. Nowadays, people are preferring that engine because the bigger boy, the 6.2-liter, has had a lot of problems, recalls, early failures. A lot of it due to the active fuel management, which actually takes the 8-cylinder down to a 4, and something with the thinner oil they were using in them. So the 5.3 has proved to be the better workhorse of the bunch, and with the Denali's and the AT4s, you can get the 5.3 or the 6.2. So from a resale standpoint, it's actually better to have the 5.3, even though it was cheaper.
Now, backup cameras are mandatory. They have been now for, I think 2018 was the first year they were required. But because of the very high driving position and the long front overhang, this also has a front parking camera as well. Good thing.
Thumbs up from that gentleman right there. A 2019 GMC Sierra pickup truck. Once again on that rebuilt salvage title. Sold for $22,000. Let's check in with April Rose.
Hey, Rick, it's so cool hanging out here at Barrett-Jackson. You never know what you're going to see. Custom Catalinas, square bodies, but I want you to see this. This is where the pony craze started. 1965 Mustang. They made their debut at the World's Fair in New York, April 17th, 1964. And enthusiasts will call this a 64 and a half. And one of the clues is you can see it still has a generator back there. They later switched those to alternators. But the VIN numbers do all reflect that it is, in fact, a 1965. Now, this one's got the 206 V8, 3-speed manual, power steering. And can I make a suggestion? Whoever buys this, I knew a guy that made the horn the sound of a horse whinnying, and it was the greatest thing in the world. So please do that. Rick?
I'm sure that was an option back then, you know, the Mustang sound. No, it was never an option, but it is kind of funny when you think about it. 2006 Bentley Continental GT up on the block.
Pretty car, and we do see a lot of these in Palm Beach, more so than at any other Barrett-Jackson auction, because Bentley of Palm Beach pumps out a whole lot of them, and South Florida, very big for Bentley. Bentley, this is about the time Bentley was really separating itself away from Rolls-Royce. Of course, they had different owners, Volkswagen Group for Bentley, and BMW owned the Rolls-Royce brand, but Bentley trying to be much more of a performance car. And as this generation Continental got a little long in the tooth, they had premier endurance driver of the world, Derek Bell, 5-time Le Mans winner, do the development on the next Bentley Continental GT, which was a more capable performer. But a lot of life left in this one, a lot of miles, just beautiful car inside and out.
Yeah, twin-turbo W12 on these. There's a VR6 Volkswagen engine sort of redesigned for Bentley after Volkswagen bought Bentley. So this was the fastest 4C car in the world when it came out, just shy of 200 miles per hour. So a lot of bang for the buck here at $24,000. This would have been around $200,000 new.
I love two-tone interiors, and that's what we have here. We have kind of a milk chocolate on the dash and on the consoles, and a Sahara tan on the seats. Love it.
Well, the original sticker on this was $189,000, and it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $25,000.
Yikes.
Away it goes, away we go. We will come back to Barrett-Jackson to Palm Beach in just a few minutes. Tell you what, if your dream ride is an exotic Porsche, maybe a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, they are lined up here at Barrett-Jackson. Those are some of the cars that will be crossing the block this Saturday, Super Saturday. I'll tell you what, they're going to bring big, big money. Meanwhile, up on the block, we got a 2011 Maserati Gran Turismo convertible.
Well, another peachy Palm Beachy car. Very capable performers these are, but this one on the vehicle history report indicates severe structural damage at one point in its life.
2011 Maserati Gran Turismo convertible. Away it goes to a brand new owner. All right, moving back to 2006, a Ford Celine, an S281 SC is up on the block.
Well, 2006 was the second year for the 5th generation Mustang. Once again, the car that relit the pony car craze in Detroit. This one has been Celine-ified. Of course, Steve Celine, well-known road racer, sort of the same idea as a Carroll Shelby Mustang would have been in 1960s. Same package here. Body appearance improvements in the suspension and engine upgrades as well.
This was a great time to be a Mustang enthusiast. You had Steve Celine, Jack Roush, Kenny Brown, any number of tuners making bespoke versions of this brand new Mustang, which returned a lot of the familiar styling cues to the brand. A lot of, I'd say, 1967-ish styling exhibited here, all the way to the tail with the triple tail lights. Sharp. Which on the Celine version, the inward tail light is blacked out to give it a kind of different look.
The beauty of these is the 4.6-liter engine had a base 300 horsepower. That's the beauty of these things. A 4.6 single-head cam, but these are upcharged with a supercharger which has 435 horsepower, courtesy of that belt-driven supercharger under the hood.
Anybody else? 29.
You know, Steve Celine is one of those guys who pretty much got to live his dream for a number of years. Raced in the Trans Am. I think he even had a brief IndyCar career, raced at Le Mans, and then he got to do these performance cars. Ultimately was bought out of the company, but the Celine name has produced some pretty impressive cars over the years.
Under 27,000, I'm sorry, under 29,000 actual miles, so barely broken in. There's a number on the front bumper, and this is something Celine did with all of his special builds, indicating that this is number 316 of the series built that year.
And the 281 is a reference to the 281 cubic inches, or 4.6 liters under the engine hood.
Oh, we're currently at $32,500 bid. I thought for a moment the hammer was going to come down, but another bid came in. The bidder assistant's looking at somebody going, all right, you want to keep going? Hold on, I'm talking to him. Yep, we'll bid it up another $500.
And on the back, you see the centrally located dual exhaust system right here, which is functional. Nod to the 1970 GT500 Mustang, Shelby GT500, that is.
$34,000, that's the hammer price on the 2006 Ford Celine. Congratulations to those folks right there. They were pretty much in it to win it. Less than 30,000 original miles according to documentation. That is the only Celine built with that particular set of options, so pretty impressive. Way it goes, right behind it, we got a 2007 Bentley Continental GT.
This one with a little bit of an upgrade, 3-piece aluminum alloy wheels, beautiful dark blue metallic, and beige interior.
And that big W12 shares a common crankcase, 12 cylinders. Basically, as Tyler said, it's two V6s mated together. The block is a one-piece structure, as is, of course, the crankshaft. If the crankshaft goes into 2 pieces, that's a bad day.
You know, to your earlier point, Mike, when you were talking about the fact that at this point, you know, BMW had taken over and was making it more of a performance car, I think it goes back to the roots of Bentley. You think back to the Bentley boys winning at Le Mans back in the late 20s. It was great to see Bentley finally return to world endurance racing and have a performance car. It wasn't just a, rebadged Rolls-Royce.
True. This is now the flagship of the Volkswagen Audi group, which includes Porsche by extension and Lamborghini. So a lot to choose from. Beautiful cars, more so inside than out, I think. The interiors of these are just sumptuous.
Yeah, I think it worked out well. You know, having BMW take over Bentley, Rolls-Royce take over Bentley. Keep mixing those two up in my brain. And then, of course, Bentley's going off in a different direction, Rolls-Royce going off in another. It's just the perfect way of having those set up. Because for so many years, they were essentially just rebadging Rolls-Royces as Bentleys.
And the Bentley Continental styling is a nod to the car of the 1950s, which had the same basic shape, nicely rendered here with enough modernization. Of course, no V12s back in the 50s. They would have had a big 6-cylinder inline engine.
Well, just 35,000 miles on this one, bringing 40,000. That's what the hammer's going to come down on. The 2007 Bentley Continental GT, that W12 engine, 6-liter underneath the hood, plenty of performance, more than 550 horsepower. All right, now to something completely different. The 2017 Chevy Silverado. This one's pretty cool. It's a 1500, but it's a Rally Sport 2 pickup.
I'm not sure who came up with that package, and I'm not sure that it was something that was available from every Chevrolet dealer, but this does have the Z71 off-road package, 5.3-liter V8, 6-speed automatic. The Rally Sport 2 is striping and decals, blackout emblems, body color grille and bumper, HID headlamps, and some steps the length of the wheelbase there.
The Z72 package is a reference to the original equipment package from the 70s and the 80s, which included quad shocks, heavy springs. This does have undercarriage shields and guards to protect the oil pan and transfer case from rocks. Not you take these off-road very often, but it's a Z71 special.
However, the consignor indicates on the car card that this car had severe damage and was a total loss October 1st, 2025. Was rebuilt and a salvage title issued later that year.
It's powered by the 5.3-liter small block Chevy with aluminum heads, iron block, naturally aspirated, a very potent engine, 360 horsepower or so. Nothing wrong with that.
And I think this package was actually a dealer-installed package as opposed to a factory package.
I know where this car comes from. You do a little automotive archaeology. Springfield, Massachusetts is the home of the Police family of dealerships.
$14,500 for that 2017 Chevy Silverado, but once again, as Mike mentioned, it does have a rebuilt salvage title on it. With that, we're going to check in with Tyler Hoover.
So the Porsche 928 was supposed to be the 911 replacement. That never happened, so these really never found their place in history. Of course, 80s 928, 911s will bring huge money. The 928's a bit less, but we did see one in 2021 here at Barrett-Jackson sell for almost $2 million, and that was the risky business one that Tom Cruise drove in the film and actually learned how to drive stick. But I think these cars are really cool. You pop the hood on this one, you have a V8 engine in the front, unlike the 911 where the engine's a 6-cylinder in the back. And you can see the cool intake treatment there. It looks like it's been polished up a little bit. This one looks like it's original shade, maybe a little bit more pearl or metallic added to the red. But the cool part of this one, if you go inside, so many of these were automatics because people were using these as sort of, GT cruisers and all that stuff. But this one is a dogleg manual transmission, and the interior does look to be in really nice shape. Also, I think pretty low miles showing on the odometer. So it's safe to say this one's not going to bring as much as the Tom Cruise car, but it is a pretty neat piece of Porsche history.
Yeah, if Tom Cruise had just driven it for a brief time, the money might pop up, but it's not going to happen. Because once again, it's a great-looking car, great car. It's not the one that was in risky business. $26,000, the current bid for a 1979 Jeep CJ7.
The CJ7 was made between 1976 and 1986, 10-inch longer wheelbase than the CJ5, which allowed longer floor pan for the automatic transmission. First time for an automatic in a Jeep. This also has the Quadra-Track, which means full-time four-wheel drive. No need to get out and lock in the hubs.
$26,000 up in the skybox. That gentleman up there, the bidder assistant's got his yellow cloth that he waves so the other bidder assistants can make sure that they're passing along his bid, and away that Jeep goes, that Jeep CJ7. 1980 Chevy K20 pickup up on the block.
There's a little history with this one. They say it was used in the Forestry Service in North Carolina. Have no idea of the mileage. The odometer reads 14,000 and change. Truck looks like it's had more wear than that. But remember, the odometers back then only read with 5 digits, only up to 99,999. So has this one rolled over? We don't know, but bid accordingly.
This four-wheel drive, manual four-wheel, if you jump out and lock in the hubs left and right, do them both, or you'll wish you did. This heavy-duty suspension on this does have a lift kit for sure. Springs have been re-arched. aftermarket springs, which have a higher arch on them. They're nearly new 14-bolt rear axle, drums in the back, discs up front. Major lift on this puppy.
You know, Mike, to your point, the consignor says this has 18,932 actual miles. Now, if the odometer says something different, I'm a little confused as to how they're coming up with such an exact number in terms of the way they're doing it.
So, Rick, that is the number on the odometer. Exactly, 18,942. However, the odometer only has 5 digits. So is it 18,000? Could it be 118,000? Hard to say.
And to your point, this says title exempt. So we think it's 18,900, but we don't actually know.
Notice how the shock absorbers are staggered on the back. One goes rearward, one goes forward. That's the temp axle hop on acceleration and axle tramp on deceleration. Good engineering.
I'm thinking the mileage could be original. And if this was used in the forestry service, a lot of it off-road, that would account for some of the wear and tear.
Yeah, just going from, the office to some of the grounds. They weren't regularly traveling on the highway, making long trips. Very possible. $17,000 for that 1980 Chevy K20 pickup truck. Barrett-Jackson.com, that's the place to go to get the full list of cars that are crossing the block today. And, of course, over the course of the next 2 days, if you want to see what kind of great machinery will be crossing the block, maybe imagine what you're going to bid on. Or better yet, sign up and actually bid on something. That's how you do it. A 1968 Corvette Custom up on the block.
All new body for 1968. Of course, the second, third generation Corvette, the Mako Shark. 327 was the available engine, or a 427. This is a 327 car. A lot of aftermarket hop-ups. The side pipes are reminiscent of the Greenwood road race cars. Not that, but again, the functional side pipes. A lot of custom touches.
There were 2 companies that made these pipes. Custom Headers made these, and they sponsored Tony DiLorenzo and Jerry Thompson's racing team in both A Production and in Trans Am. And on my car, it took me all day to get those reassembled and put back on the car after some refurbishment. Hooker also made these, called them header mufflers. Legal in some states, but not in all. And the striping recalls the Joel Rosen Baldwin Motion Corvettes.
Phase 3s, right on, great cars. Now, production on these things, the coupes always didn't sell as well as the roadsters. There were 9,963 coupes versus 18,630 roadsters. So if you buy a Corvette, you wanted a roadster. But some people wanted to have the coupe for the sealed cockpit, and that's what we have right here. Again, only 9,936 of these were built. 4-speed car with the 327.
Hammer up, and away it goes. $18,000 for that 1968 Corvette with a great paint job, the 327 cubic inch engine, and away it goes to a brand new owner. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to see a 1964 Dodge Polara Custom rolling across the block. It's got a 383 cubic inch Magnum V8 engine, and according to the consignor, it only has 37,000 miles on the odometer.
Well, a very significant car, of course. Second year right here for the Olds overhead valve V8, which debuted in 1949 and really was set the stage for the Detroit horsepower race. Cadillac also launched their V8 in 1949. And again, being an 88 has a shorter wheelbase than the 98 would have. So the hot rod Olds right here, the 303 V8 and the 3-speed, a great little hot rod before a hot rod was a thing.
Oldsmobile and Cadillac beat Chevrolet to the overhead valve V8 by 6 years, 1949 So these were the engines that were hot rodders' choice back in the early 1950s until the small block Chevy debuted in 1955.
This one's backed up by a Hydra-Matic 4-speed automatic transmission, a very heavy transmission, but again, 4 gears. Nothing overdrive, but again, that's what they had in the 50s.
Wow, I tell you what, a lot of fun for $11,000, that 1950 Olds 88, 303 cubic inch engine. All right, a little while ago, April Rose previewed a 1965 Ford Mustang convertible, and it has now arrived up center stage.
Indeed, 64.5 is a designation given to these cars by hobbyists, but the VIN begins with a 5, so they're registered as a 65 car. But again, 64.5. What Ford did is they got a head start on the production run, getting started in April of 64. So with that said, that's how they get these things in production and up and running. Can't open the hood, you can see the generator in this car versus the alternator that would come along for 65 later in 64.
Ford kind of started the whole idea of the half-year model year in 1963 with the 63.5 Ford Fastbacks because they needed a more aerodynamic car for NASCAR racing, among other reasons. So that's where the half came from. This is in very nice shape. Brand new top, very nice interior, and of course it's resale red.
The wheels are Magnum 500 type wheels, which would arrive later in the 60 on Mustangs. They look great, but they're Ford items, as it were. 8-inch rear axle, drum brakes all the way around. Very pure, not been molested at all. No upgrades, and that's good. Let it be. Poppy red and white top. Beautiful car.
Nice chrome-styled wheels. The Magnum 500 style. Uniroyal Tiger Paw tires. Remember that? Remember when Uniroyal, they had 3 spokesmen. Uni, Roy, and Al. Uni was a woman. Well, that went away, and they became Tiger Paw. Never mind. $35,000 the hammer price for this Mustang. And now Rick is going to tell us about a drive in an MG that he will never forget.
Today's memory lane involves a confession. It's time I finally told the truth. This goes back to when I was 16 years old. Just gotten my driver's license, and our family had kind of boring cars. We had a Volkswagen, we had a Rambler, but my best friend's girlfriend, well, she had a red NGA convertible, just like this one. One day we were at an event, she wanted to ride home with her boyfriend, and she said, "Would you drive my car?" And I'm like, "Of course I would. This is my chance to drive a real British sports car." Away they went. I hopped in, and I immediately stalled the car. And in fact, all the way to where I was going, it didn't seem to work very well. The clutch was off, didn't have any power. And when I finally got there, I realized what the problem was. And you probably guessed it right. The emergency brake was on. But here's why. It's tucked over here on the passenger side. It's really hard to see. Of course, when Barbara asked me, "How's the car doing?" I said, "It was great." So now I have to confess to Barbara and the rest of the world, I drove with the emergency brake on.
Now, this is not the same MGA that Rick abused back in the day, thank goodness, but it will be rolling to the auction block shortly.
First chance to drive a British sports car, and I screwed it up royally. But it wasn't a long trip, so I don't think I did a lot of damage that day. Right now we got a 1964 Pontiac Catalina Custom convertible.
Well, these were called the wide track Pontiacs because they had a wider track, literally, than other GM cars by about 4 inches. Thus, the axles and suspension parts are unique to Pontiacs. However, these were built in Canada as well with different names, Parisian, etc., which rode on Chevy chassis, which did not have the wide track. So Canadian-built Pontiacs look a little odd with the tires tucked in.
Well, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $30,000 for this 1964 Pontiac Catalina Custom convertible. Different kind of convertible behind it, a 2005 Mercedes-Benz SL 500 Roadster.
Third model year for this styling cycle, and here we see one without the AMG styling package of the very aggressive front air dam. This is the way most all of them were in standard production form, the kind of fried egg headlights dualed right there. This is kind of an off silver, has a bit of gray to it. I used to know the name of this color and not anymore, but 7-speed automatic with the stone interior, kind of beige and taupe with that light burled wood. You could also get it on the steering wheel, as this one has. This one's been treated to chroming the stock wheels, as was often done. And this one only has 12,900 miles on it. My gosh.
It's a naturally aspirated overhead cam 5-liter motor, aluminum block, aluminum heads, 303 horsepower, 302 horse, nothing wrong with that.
This might be smoke silver as opposed to the bright iridium silver as once used on Mercedes-Benz racing cars. Kind of a little softer look to this color. Pretty car and just barely broken in. This must have lived at somebody's second, third, or fourth home and only been driven very, very rarely, but now it's off to its next adventure.
Sold $25,000.
Well, barely selling for a quarter of its original price. Now, granted, it is 21 years old, but as you mentioned, less than 13,000 miles on the odometer for that 2005 Mercedes-Benz. Let's check in with Tyler Hoover.
Here's something really cool. Pontiac's entry into the pony cars right here. First year, 1967 Pontiac Firebird. Shared the platform with the Camaro that came out the same year, but also there were a lot of contenders, including the Mercury Cougar on the Mustang platform. So this was getting really crowded in this period of time in the pony car wars. But Chevy and Pontiac did a pretty good job of making the cars look different. First, in the front, you can see it has this sort of beak front here that sort of defined Pontiac design for many years. And then also different engines. So this one's sort of the middle of the road, 326 cubic inch V8, but the performance version for around 285 horsepower. And this one, the convertible as well. Nice white vinyl top, white vinyl bucket interior to match. And it looks like a very high quality restoration throughout. You can see, yeah, the wood trim, the radio, air conditioning on this one as well. So a bit more luxurious these were supposed to be compared to the Chevrolets. And yeah, this one looks to be in fantastic condition, but here is the birth of the Firebird right here.
And that is one of the cars that's part of the Legacy on Wheels collection that we'll see crossing the block here at Barrett-Jackson. Meanwhile, the 1965 Pontiac Catalina.
Oh, I like this. This is the 2+2, the rare performance version. Tri-Power V8, 4-speed, 8-lug aluminum wheels. Rare and quite special to Pontiac folks.
Desirable as well. Away it goes to a brand new owner for $40,000. Pretty solid money. In fact, that now ties it at number 2 on the day. I think we've got about 4 or 5 cars that have all sold for that $40,000 number. But our top seller for the day so far, still that 1973 Volkswagen Thing convertible, sold before we came on the air for $65,000. Ruh-roh is right. Another 1968 Chevy G20 Mystery Machine recreation. Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Well, it's based on the Chevy Van 108 as in the 108-inch wheelbase. Now, of course, vans were a big deal. Started by the Ford Falcon van in 1962. And, of course, grew into these Chevy vans and Dodge vans in 1964.
Well, everybody loves cartoons. Every kid loves cartoons. I want to know where they found all that new orange shag carpet. Can't imagine that's still being reproduced, but I guess it was. Zoinks, it says on the bumper. Of course it does.
You know, we see various forms of recreations across the block here at Barrett-Jackson. Sometimes they can do pretty crazy money. We had one in Scottsdale. Pretty much broke the bank. So it just boils down to, is this what you're in the mood for? Different styling. But, boy, I love the look with the orange wheels, the green hubcaps. It's great.
Well, like the first generation of American compact vans, the engine is inside the cabin between the seats. There's an engine housing there. You pop it up and service the engine. A little warm on a hot day.
All right, so never mind the vibe about the Mystery Machine. Let's show you what's pretty cool about these vans. For things like city delivery, note the position of the front wheel and the position of the driver. He's right out here, right in the very front of this, much as you would be on a Volkswagen bus. So for parking in tight quarters and deliveries and things like that, yep, these were very functional, worked very well. Thank you.
The word is, if you have an accident, you're the first one on the scene in one of these vans.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, you're right.
I had an A100 van like this. I drove in L.A. numerous times. I was almost the first one on the scene at the accident. Luckily, I didn't arrive at the accident. I avoided it.
That reminds me of the way VW vans used to be as well. $20,000 for the Mystery Machine recreation. Scooby-Doo has arrived. All right, something a little more sedate, shall we say? A 2012 Maserati Gran Turismo MC Stradale up on the block.
Yeah, don't go to sleep on this one. This is not the normal Maserati 2+2 coupe. As this body style and presentation aged, they added more horsepower and more performance, just trying to stretch the life of these. So note the big, deep front bumper cover, and the splitter, the wide alloy wheels, 444 horsepower from the Ferrari V8, carbon fiber interior package and steering wheel, and only 35,000 miles.
And it is naturally aspirated, no turbo, no blower, so it's pure horsepower out of that 4.7 liter engine, all aluminum, overhead cams, of course.
Yeah, great looking car, very specific bumpers that are just on the MC. So there's a lot to like on this. And as you mentioned, the main thing is the horsepower. The fact that it's got nearly 450 horsepower coming out of that Ferrari V8.
And this one has been enjoyed for only 35,000 miles, so a lot of life left here.
Now 30, now 30, 28, 38.
Well, the hammer was up. I thought they were going to sell it. That gentleman thought they were going to sell it. Now he's going to decide. Does he want to go another $1,000? That's the way it goes. $28,000. I think it may have gone over the internet to a new buyer for that 2012 Maserati Gran Turismo MC Stradale. Coming up behind it, a 1983 Porsche 928S. This is one of the cars that Tyler Hoover previewed for us.
Yeah, this was Porsche's new flagship that almost led to the demise of the 911. Those laid-back flat headlights that pop up for use were then repeated on the four-cylinder Porsche when the 944 was updated to the 968. But no four-cylinder here. This is a twin-overhead cam V8. Very much a grand touring car and very unlike the getting long in the tooth at that point, 911.
One detail that helped to prevent these from being nose heavy is the fact that the transaxle is located at the back under the rear seat area versus a transmission behind the engine, which would make for more nose weight. So a better weight distribution on this with the transaxle in place. Also seen in 944 and 924.
Yeah, that's why these are sometimes lumped in with what we call the transaxle cars with the four-cylinder versions, but a whole lot more power, a whole lot more capability, and of course a whole lot more expensive here.
And this was really pitched as a grand tourer. You know, this wasn't the car that Porsche was taking racing on a regular basis. They were still racing the various forms of the 911 that were being produced. This was designed to be really competition for the Jaguar XJS or the BMW 6 Series.
And these have a torque tube that runs from the back of the flywheel all the way to the transaxle underneath the drive shaft tunnel. And again, a torque tube. Big dual exhaust system coming out the driver's side. 2 pipes, 1 muffler.
Well, $16,500. Awful lot of fun, which is exactly why those folks are high-fiving each other. Congratulations to them for that 1983 Porsche 928S edition. And as they sign the paperwork, we are going to take a quick break as well. But we promise we're coming back. Check out that little Jaguar sitting out there amidst all that other fun machinery that's going to be crossing the block here at Barrett-Jackson, Palm Beach. Tell you what, it's not cheap to live in Palm Beach. And to live in Palm Beach and have one of those boats down there in the marina, that's going to take a little extra money. But then, you know, you're making big bucks. Why not? It's absolutely beautiful out there. Beautiful in here. We're right now got a 1957 Porsche 356 Speedster. But this is a recreation.
Well, indeed, there's a fiberglass body riding on top of a 1975 Volkswagen Beetle chassis. Nothing wrong with that. They're cousins, after all. Disc brakes all the way around. Nice presentation. Nice original style wheels and tires.
These are still pretty popular and being built in numbers today, but usually it's its own chassis now, tubular or whatever else. So back in the day, it was much more common for it to be a rebuilt Volkswagen tub and all that stuff, recycling that, using the Volkswagen motor, but it definitely looks the part. The proportions are right as far as the wheelbase, so it lends itself well to the Speedster treatment.
Let's call it a nice upgrade for that 1957 Porsche 356 Speedster recreation that just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $27,000. Pickup truck time, a 2011 Chevy Silverado 1500. but this one's a custom.
Yeah, a sleeper on this one. So from the outside, you see a mild lift, the kind of oversized billet wheels, that cowl hood, but pretty sinister under the hood, huh, Max?
Indeed, there's a GM Performance or LSX 7-liter. That's 427 cubic inches. As if that's not good enough, there's a Whipple supercharger on top of that. Far more than 400 horsepower going on here. 2.9-liter blower with an intercooler even, no less.
Pretty cool build here. You wouldn't see this normally on a modern truck, a GMT 900 chassis. And this one, the regular cab and the long bed. So very unusual to see that on a truck like this. Looks like the suspension not only lifted, but upgraded air riding coilovers as well. So a lot of money spent here.
Indeed, there's a cast iron block. All kinds of good, there's Diamond Racing forged pistons, better bearings, Callie's Compstar crankshaft, a billet crank, so good parts to hang in there with the boost of that supercharger. It's not going to blow up when you get on it, it's going to stay together. Nice to see the quality on the inside and out.
Now, I've seen this with Escalades and other high-end builds as far as like a crew cab truck or Denali's, if you will. But for someone to take a normal-looking, almost work truck and do this level of build, it's very unusual, very cool. Like I said, sleeper. Nobody would ever know at the stoplight.
Well, congratulations to that guy for $25,000. Just bought himself a sleeper with less than 10,000 miles on the odometer. Plenty of horsepower coming from underneath the hood. A little while ago, we previewed a 1964 Dodge Polara Custom Coupe, and it's time for that car to hit the block.
I'm partial to these cars. I had one of these back in the 1980s. I put a Max Wedge in it, push-button torque plate, 8 3/4. A lot of fun with that car. Of course, the Polara was the upscale one. There's a Polara 500 above this, but the Polara, of course, was always a hardtop, not a sedan. 383 under the hood, 4-speed right from the factory on this one here. And nice aftermarket wheels, American Racing torque plate-looking Boyd wheels, disc brakes, Wilwood stuff up front, and drums in the back.
Other than those Boyd Coddington wheels, it does look very stock as far as the trim, the bright work, the interior. Looks like air conditioning added though, which is nice touch, especially in Palm Beach, and 4-speed manual, so a lot of fun to be had, but also very much looks the part of a vintage Polara.
At this point, the Polara was technically a mid-sized car, if you want to say that. It had a 119-inch wheelbase, longer than the Chevelle, but they hadn't gone down from the full size. The following year, they would extend that wheelbase out and make the Polara the full-size edition coming out of Chrysler.
The same basic platform was used by the Ram Chargers to great success on drag strips, of course, with the candy stripes along the roof, the red accents, and the Ram Chargers drag team, factory engineers who took their work week and brought it to the drag strip on the weekends in the name of research and development.
18, 20, 20,000.
Yeah, big changes would come the following year from a styling perspective. Elwood Engel had taken over at Chrysler a couple years earlier, really didn't get to put his stamp on the cars completely until the 1965 model year. They clean up the styling a lot, but you're either one of those people who love the early 60s or you love the transition period when it goes to the smoother sides in 65. $20,000, that's the hammer price on that custom 1964 Dodge Polara Coupe. Away it goes. We're going to take a break as well. We will come back to Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach right after this. Back here at Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach, a 1960 MGA up on the block, the first car from the Legacy of Wheels collection, and also my confessional car, having driven one of these a long time ago when I got to take the emergency brake off. What a great little car, though.
Indeed, wire wheels presented their correct gray finish, not chrome, never available from the factory. Disc brakes up front, also factory stuff. Has been hot rodded a little bit. It was originally a 1600, now it's an 1800, slightly larger stroke or bore, so it's a 1.8 liter, I should say, instead of the 1.6 it was born with. Nice restoration.
I agree. Everything looks nice on this one, correct? Including the knockoff wheels. Those are real knockoffs because that's what they did back in the day. Also, discs in the front, looks like drums in the rear, so pretty faithful restoration overall.
Second to the last year for this body style. They started this in the mid-50s, I think, mid-55. Of course, the MGB takes over just a year and a half after this one. $20,000, away that one goes. All right, behind it, we're going to have a Ranchero, and I think that means it's time for some Hagerty Fast Facts for this 1959 Ford Ranchero. Ranchero was produced between 1957 and 1979. 1959 was really the last year for the first generation of the Ranchero. And of course, we all know the success of the Ranchero prompted General Motors to produce the El Camino.
Interesting styling touch is the forward tilting hood a la the Thunderbird, sort of trickling some Thunderbird style and sporting this into the full-size forward line. And like you said, Rick, this is the second year, or third year, I should say, of the Ranchero, which fought the Chevy El Camino on the showroom floor and on the work sites of America. Has a Mercury 390, the FE engine. It would have had probably a 292 from the factory back when it was originally built.
Beautiful two-tone paint treatment on this one. There's a beautiful chrome trim dividing line added as well. And the Ranchero script going down the back with sort of the jet age style taillights in the rear, but a very functional truck bed. You look up and it's like at least probably an 8-foot bed, so you had all the functionality and looks of a car, but it really had the practicality of a truck as well. I don't get why it hasn't made a comeback. I feel like this would be something people would want maybe as a crew cab version.
Yeah, but trucks sell so well. I think the big companies just don't want to cut into their truck sales to build something, especially since, regular sedans are kind of going away.
And these were truly ready for work. Leaf springs in the back, whereas the El Camino had coil springs in the back. So these could probably handle a couple hundred pounds than the coil spring equipped El Camino.
I suppose there are a few. There'd be that the Hyundai Veracruz, that's sort of a car-based platform crossover that has a truck bed, and you could say the Ford Maverick, arguably, because it's sort of a unibody, more like a car-based vehicle, but still a truck bed. So they're kind of.
The Ranchero wasn't the first car-based truck that came out there. There were a number of earlier versions, but really was the first one that did it mainstream. And what's interesting is even though this came out before the El Camino, by the time both of those cars were done, the El Camino sold more than twice as many as there were El Caminos out there, or as more Rancheros, I should say. $26,000. I think you got a great-looking car. Congratulations for that 1959 Ford Ranchero. And with that, we're going to check out the McGuire staging lane, which is where April Rose is standing by.
That's right, Rick. I'm with this gem 1952 Cadillac Series 62. It is gorgeous. You got the huge Dagmars up front. Of course, the flying goddess on the hood. It's almost launching off that. Look how long that hood is. And of course, I love the ducks on the emblem right there. You gotta have the ducks. Beautiful jet black paint. It's so hard to keep black perfect, and this one looks great. Now, here's the thing. It wasn't born like this. This top was chopped off, the windshield chopped off. They had to reinforce the frame because of that. Inside, full custom leather seats. You even have the ducks right there. Custom cup holders all the way down in that center console, leather wrapped wheel. And RJ, come back here, take a look at these fins. This is where they started, I think in 1948. They started small and got bigger and bigger every single year. Now the power comes from a Cadillac VLS automatic transmission. Rick, when it comes to customs, you can really do whatever you want.
We see that on a regular basis. Now, Mike was here. He would point out, don't call them ducks. They're merlets, this mythical bird that they put onto the Cadillac crest. And by the way, even the man behind the Cadillac name was a bit of a myth in many ways. But that's a story for another day. Up on the block right now, we got a 2010 Camaro 2SS. But we have to point out, before we get any further on this one, that this one, I believe, has a rebuilt title with a salvage title issue.
Well, after a few years hiatus, Chevrolet wisely brought back the Camaro for 2010, as we see right here. It was discontinued briefly in the late 1990s, I should say, and then basically brought back, and we see it here. Retro styling, nicely done. Of course, the Mustang in 05 brought the retro thing back into vogue, and Chevy 8, of course, Dodge Challenger arrived in 2008, bringing the Mighty 3 back into play, and the Pony Car Wars were back on.
This thing has quite a story. It only has 15 miles on the odometer. It was in a house fire, and there was virtually no damage to the car, but it was totaled because of that. But this is brand new in the wrapper with the plastic still in it.
Now, that's a pretty interesting story. Why has it been sitting for 16 years with that smoke damage? Way it goes, apparently it still smells fine inside. It's been properly refurbished, so that's all that really matters. Going up behind it, another one of the Legacy on Wheels collection. This is the one that Tyler previewed, a 1967 Pontiac Firebird convertible.
Oh, look at the Firebird.
Yeah, like I said, the first year of the Firebird and convertible version, which is here at the platform with the Chevrolet Camaro. And popping the hood right now, it's got an interesting engine combination, I think. Right, Max?
That's right, the 326 Pontiac engine. But in the corner of these cars is something called a cocktail shaker. It's a seismic damper on each corner of the convertible cars in front. And the Camaros had them as well to prevent the body flex from rattling away. But the dampers are about 45 pounds in each corner of the car. Can't see them here, they're hidden by the grille, but something found only on convertibles. And the trunk as well.
This really isn't the car that Pontiac and John DeLorean wanted to build back in those days. They wanted to build the Banshee, which was really going to be a competitor for the Corvette. And of course, the General Motors brass said, no way we're doing that. We're not making enough money off the Corvette as it is. So they said, but we'll tell you what we will do. We'll give you the Camaro, and you could play with that.
And it is correctly restored right to the transverse muffler there behind the rear axle. The quad tips coming out the back are correct, but again, the muffler in the bottom there is transverse, which is not very efficient. That's how they built them. Better packaging versus mufflers under the floor pan, under the back seat. So this got the job done. It costs a little bit of horsepower, but it's correctly presented here on this restoration.
Well, it's getting love in the room. This is now the #2 sale of the day at $43,500, the current bid. And that's how it sells right there. Congratulations. We had an internet buyer that came in, took it away from somebody up on the block, and I can see why, though. Looks great, convertible, first-year Firebird, the 326 cubic inch V8, 285 horsepower. What a great combination. And away it goes for that first year of the Firebird. 1951 Ford F1 pickup. If you just bought a red Firebird, how about a red pickup?
A beautiful presentation. I like the wide whites. Not really commonly seen on a pickup truck back in the day, but look great. Some cruiser vibes there. A flathead V8 under the hood here. They say it's a 254. I dare say probably not. It is more likely a 239 under the hood here. But the flathead's a great little engine. Very simple, very durable.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, if it still retained its flathead, because we were in the last few years of the flathead Ford V8 that came out in 1932 with Fords. It's great it found their way into the trucks as well as the cars. So what do we got? Yep, still a flathead. Max popped the hood for me, but overall, yeah, very faithful restoration on this one, and looks very usable overall as far as still being used as a truck, but very stock.
And it's called a flathead because the cylinder heads are indeed flat. There's no overhead valves, no rocker arms, nothing like that. The ports are in the block. With that said, a very simple engine, smaller to less parts to pay for and maintain. The flathead, a mighty engine, 1932 through about 1954. There were millions of cars and trucks.
Yeah, a lifetime ago we used to call these L-heads or side valves because once again the valve was not on top of the cylinder the way we're used to seeing them in the overhead valve setup.
The rear axle is Spicer style. I believe it's probably a Model 30 Spicer axle. Not the 9-inch you might expect in a Ford pickup.
Well, another $40,000 sale. I think that's about the 5th or 6th one that we've had so far today. That means it is in a serious tie for 3rd place on our first day of coverage here at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach. Let's see, we had a red Firebird, we had a red pickup truck. How about a red Buick Skylark convertible?
Well, yeah, they're all the same color, but all very different as far as the bodies goes. But being a Buick, it still has those Venta ports down the side that aren't functional. Under hood, though, we've got a nice V8 here.
That's the 215, all aluminum heads, aluminum block. 2-barrel carb on this one here. That's the original motor. Of course, this engine was sold to British Leyland, used in Rovers and Land Rovers and Rover cars. I said the 3500 four-door saloon. This is part of GM's Senior Compact, the Buick Skylark Special / the old F85 and Cutlass, and the Pontiac Tempest were all based on the Senior Compact vibe. This one does have a rear axle and a drive shaft, whereas the Tempest had a swing axle in the back and a rope drive. All similar but different in the same way.
You can see the inboard style tail lights that didn't get very good visibility on the outside. That got fixed in the later 60s with a lot of GM models. And this one still retains its wire hubcaps on it. So they resisted the urge to upgrade that and leave it stock. I personally think it looks good.
That all-aluminum V8 was shared with Pontiac and Oldsmobile. The Oldsmobile had different cylinder heads. But there were a lot of failures in the castings, too much for GM, so they went back to an iron block engine, and they sold all this tooling, as Rick said, to Rover. So Land Rovers through 2006 used the same basic engine. So did my TR8, Triumph TR8 sports car. from 1979 to 81. Very versatile engine. Raced at Indy, raced in Can-Am. Cool.
Away this one goes for $17,000. Now, once again, that was part of the Legacy on Wheels collection, and we're going to see some pretty special machinery from that group crossing the block later this week. Here's Mike Joy with more.
The Legacy on Wheels collection has a very discerning owner who specializes in very rare versions of not-so-rare cars. Here's a 56 and a 57 Chevy, the rarest body style, the convertible, the rare Power Pack V8 in both of them, and a Continental kit out back. These are not just Cadillacs. These are Eldorados, the very specially built, limited production version of America's favorite luxury car. And this 58 Corvette, well, it's a one-year-only body style with the washboards and the tusks. This sports the 245 horsepower dual quad V8, and it's one of only 510 built in Regal turquoise. The Legacy on Wheels collection will sell mid-afternoon Saturday.
Yeah, Mike, I was out looking at those things, and each one of those cars just looks as spectacular up close as it does from 10 or 20 feet away.
Restored to a very high standard, Rick.
Absolutely. 1966 Thunderbird Custom convertible up on the block.
Well, this styling strike would run a few years. 67 would bring a larger car, a very different platform for the Thunderbird, and this is the last of the line. They call them the flare pen stuff because the side of the body panel looks kind of like a flare pen, the same basic shape used on the covers for the flare pens. Has the 390 motor, beautiful car. It's been lightly modified. The door handle has been shaved, as has a lot of the outer chrome moldings, all pretty much shaved off. More sleek than it should be. It's a beautiful car.
Pretty beautiful generation of the Thunderbird. I absolutely love it before they kind of got big and fat shortly after this. 1966 Thunderbird sells for $20,500. Right behind it, we got a 2017 Maserati Gran Turismo Sport.
Well, 4.7 liter V8, 454 horsepower, 6-speed automatic in Rosso Corsa, 4-wheel disc brakes, 20-inch alloy wheels. All black interior, black leather and Alcantara. That Trident stitching in the headrests and Alcantara accents throughout. Bose surround sound. Kind of an executive express here.
Now, Mike, how much of that V8 engine is shared with Ferrari? Any parts, crankshafts, pistons, anything interchangeable?
Pretty much all of it, Steve. It's, Ferrari designed, and I'm not sure if they're made on the same assembly line as the Ferrari V8s or not. I believe they wear a Maserati valve cover and dress up, but otherwise the engine architecture is the same as the Ferrari 4Cam V8.
That's a good thing. They must make mechanical music. Ferrari engines make great sounds. I'm sure this does it as well.
Significantly, I mean, this will do 0 to 60 in like 4.7 seconds, so it's got plenty of get up and go. This is not designed to be an ultimate performance car. It's supposed to be a grand touring car.
And it shares a version of the Ferrari F1 computer-controlled clutch. Don't call it an automatic transmission. Computer-controlled clutch manual with paddle shifter. So I guess that's the easiest way to say that, Steve. It's a 2-pedal car, not a 3. No clutch pedal.
Now, Mike, is the Maserati dealership network alive and well?
Yes, it is. And in many cities, it is dualed with Ferrari. In some places, it's separate.
$23,000, that's the price that was sold, this 2017 Maserati Gran Turismo Sport that went over the internet here at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach. 1952 Cadillac Series 62. Let's call this a custom topless roadster. This is the one that April Rose previewed just a little while ago.
Well, April was talking about the bumper bullets, and she called them Dagmars. And that's what we called them in the 50s and 60s, just as we called the big bumper blocks on MGs and Jaguars Sabrinas, and for the same reason. Dagmar was a TV actress in the 1950s. the archetype blonde and the comic foil of folks like George Burns, Jack Benny, and other variety show hosts and comedic actors. She played the dumb blonde, the Swedish dumb blonde. She was from West Virginia, and she was a very accomplished actress.
Has a Cadillac-sourced CTS-V engine, of course, 6 liters, nothing wrong with that. So it's a Cadillac engine, sort of, in a Cadillac. I believe this was a coupe that's been decapitated and turned into a roadster, making 1 + 1 = 3, if you will. Cool piece. Custom interior all the way around. Central console with cup holders all the way around, all molded in fiberglass. Custom work all the way around. Beautiful.
But I love seeing that Cadillac V8 engine under the hood instead of the usual small block Chevy or LS swap.
Guess what? Getting love here in the room. This is now tied as the #1 sale of the day. Can it squeeze its way to own that spot? We'll see if we get one more bid. Nope. Yeah, we just got it. We went up $2,000 more. Now it's $67,000. That will be the new #1 sale of the day here, at least at this point, on our Thursday Barrett-Jackson coverage from Palm Beach.
And Cadillac's trademark tail fins debuted in 1948, going from year to year.
Way it goes, $67,000 for that custom topless roadster from 1952 with that very modern Caddy engine. Beautiful day here in South Florida, near Palm Beach. Great weather, great puffy clouds, pretty much everything you'd want if you were coming to the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auctions. It's perfect inside and it's perfect outside. And up at the block right now, the 1974 Chevy Caprice Classic Convertible.
White inside and out, black convertible top. Very nice because in '74, you couldn't get a Chevelle convertible. They'd gone to the Colonnade body style. No Monte Carlo convertible, no Camaro convertible, 2-door hardtop only. You wanted a convertible Chevrolet, had to be a Corvette, or this, the Caprice Classic.
And the Caprice Classic is a boat. It is massive, shared sort of like with the Cadillac Eldorado and others, or the big Fleetwood style. Are these rear-wheel drive, Mike? I think they're for rear-wheel drive. That's the big difference between the Eldorado. So it's on that sort of that rear-wheel drive platform. And this one looks like it's pretty original, maybe a repaint, but original bright work interior showing 70,000 miles on it. And it even has, yeah, looks like, oh no, that is a screen down there, not an 8-track.
Only 2 owners, and the last owner has had it for the last 18 years.
Yeah, actually kind of a fun car, a big old boat to go cruising around in. $40,000 is what it sells for. Another $40,000 sale here at Barrett-Jackson. 1986 Chevy C10 custom pickup truck rolling up behind it.
Well, this one's been nicely lowered. This square body style always looks great in black, often seen with a red interior, and this is a very deep Cabernet. This one's had a Vortec V8 transplant, a Vortec 6000.
Yeah, coil-over suspension on this one as well. Yeah, truck-based Ellis motor. Beautiful interior, too. A lot of amazing upgrades.
Well, that puts a cap on 3 hours of our live coverage here in South Florida. But fear not, we still have 2 more hours of live coverage of the world's greatest collector car auction. Barrett-Jackson headed your way. It is a beautiful day here in South Florida, even nicer when you're surrounded by some of the world's best collector cars on the world. Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach is up. Up on the block right now is a great 1955 Chevy Bel Air Custom. But I do want to point out that just a moment ago we saw a 1986 Chevy C10 Custom pickup that sold for $50,000 and became our #3 sale of the day. So where will this 55 Custom end up?
Boy, beautiful shoebox Chevy, first year. Has those center line, lightweight aluminum wheels, red and white interior, kind of mimicking what's been done here on the exterior with the scalloping and the two-tone, but boy, just a lot of gleaming, dark red candy apple paint.
I agree, really well done. And you can see the hood modified here, not only with the pins, but a cowl induction hood. So we have some body modifications going on here as well. A bit of the chrome as far as the bling you see in 55, as far as the emblems shaved off of it, removed as well. So everything, little touches, but a lot of little touches add up.
GM 12-bolt differential, 373 posi traction gears. There's a Hurst shifter with a T-handle, Hurst 4-shift. And inside looks just as nice as it does outside. In fact, a lot of little custom touches hide in plain sight, like the scalloping around this retractable antenna here, and a tritone paint treatment here at the C-pillar.
You can see the digital gauges inside as well. The interior just as beautiful as the outside.
$41,000 makes that the number 5 sale of the day for a 1955 Chevy Bel Air Custom of that black cherry paint. Just shows so great underneath the lights. Pickup truck time, a 1961 Ford F100 Custom up on the block.
Yeah, this has been what we would call dip painted. All of what was the bright work, except for the emblems, including the grille and the bumpers, have all been done here in body color. Wear some really big hoops, salt flat style wheels, and it's got a 5-liter V8, 4-speed automatic transmission, and all-wheel drive. The chassis is from a 1998 Ford Explorer.
That is a very interesting choice as far as a chassis swap. I guess an easy way to modernize it. And I imagine the wheelbase is probably similar on the 90s Ford Explorer and not too wide to match this sort of era of truck. So I guess it makes sense. But otherwise, a lot of cool stuff done here as far as everything the same color, all the chrome for the most part, painted body color, including the bumpers, the headlights around, that kind of stuff. Looks great.
The interior much more modern than what it was born with. Leather-covered dash, leather seats in kind of a cognac shade, as is the steering wheel. Tilt column added. A digital display for the entertainment system.
Well, I'm seeing 90s Ford Explorer gauges on this thing and climate control, and I'm seeing 207,000 miles on the odometer. Holy smokes!
Well, it just sold over the telephone here at Barrett-Jackson for $32,000. Do you call it an Explorer? Do you call it a Ford pickup? Well, it's technically titled as a special construction. Barrett-Jackson.com, the place to go to for all of the details about the cars that are crossing the block today, tomorrow, the next day, and of course you can even do research about cars that cross the block and our previous auctions. 1973 Camaro Custom up on the block.
Well, a lot of freelancing has been done here. The full width bumper has been removed. Rally Sport bumperettes installed. That lower spoiler is always black. It's never body color, but no, here it is. And a lot of dress up being done to this 350 cubic inch small block.
They're making all the use of the cowl induction hood, that bump out, to fix this stack fuel system and that air intake. You're using all the height there, but everything all chromed out and polished as well. Air conditioning added. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's EFI there posing as dual quads. FI Tech, one of the leaders in that department. And I love fuel injection. To me, carburetor is a French word meaning leave it alone. To have modern fuel injection where the car starts every time and instantly adjusts to temperature and air density changes, that's the way to go.
And I know this is your favorite generation of Camaro. You have a big affinity for them. Yeah, obviously some liberties taken as far as the correct bumpers and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to do a custom, why not do the Greatest Hits album? I think people like the split bumper.
Yep, this rear spoiler we're seeing is the low spoiler that was standard on 1970 and 71 Z28s. Wasn't much good for racing, didn't provide a lot of downforce. The D80 spoiler package came, and this was obsoleted after 1971, but looks good here.
Yeah, this chassis that they came out with in 1970 was really just a step above what Ford was producing with the Mustang back at this time. Much better handling car for its day. $45,000 means that is now the number 4 sale. I tell you what, Numbers are just starting to pop right and left here at Barrett-Jackson on Thursday, first day of the 3-day auction here in Palm Beach. 1978 Chevy K20 pickup up on the block.
Well, I love these GM two-tone pickups. I'm not sure this was ever a factory choice. This yellow looks a lot brighter than what you would have had, and the white looks a lot more beige than what this truck would have worn originally. But this is somebody's interpretation, and the stripes down the hood on both sides look really pretty cool. I like what they've done here.
But this would have started life as a four-wheel drive, hence the K instead of the C, so it's appropriate there. Interesting thing they're doing is sort of a rhino lining as far as this chip guard here on the lower section, so you can actually take it off-road. And the interior, boy, it's definitely kind of odd in here. It looks like your grandma's couch as far as the choices of the material in there, the buttoning and all that stuff. Very 70s.
Well, it kind of matches the hood stripes, and it's described by the consignor as Mandarin Orange. Wow, sure is.
Now, the thing that would be holding this back is the body style. So this is the four-wheel drive, and this is the square body, but it's the long bed. And we usually see way more money for the short bed trucks, so much so that a lot of the earlier versions of this will get modified. The frames will get cut into short beds, modified into it, because it's worth doing. The results, money-wise, speak for themselves.
That big step bumper identifies this as having been a long-time work truck. Spent its life in Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Well, it just sold for $23,000 here at Barrett-Jackson. Well, coming up in just a little bit, it'll be Bronco time here at Barrett-Jackson. 1978, this one right here is going to cross the block. 400 cubic inch engine. It's got a big 4-inch lift, 4-speed manual transmission. You see right there. You'll see it before very long here at Barrett-Jackson.
Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson. We're in Palm Beach. The weather is beautiful, and right now I'm in the McGuire staging lanes with this sweet, spicy girl, 1964 Corvette. Love the body of the C2 with those pop-up headlights. You got the front split bumper right there. Beautiful period correct Krager wheels on the side with the thin white stripe tires. And in 63 they had these cookie cutters right up front that they removed, so it's a little more of a clean look for 64. Take a peek inside. They redid those seats in leather. You got the Hurst shifter, vertical mounted radio. And these are great because you could pull up to the gas station on either side. RJ, come on and shoot this. Center racing style gas cap. Doesn't matter which side you go on. It's a quick fill up. Now the power's from a rebuilt 327 V8 4-speed manual Wilwood master cylinder. Man, I need the keys. This is all me. What do you think, Rick?
Can't go wrong with that thing, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, a few freelancing here with the wheels and stuff, but boy, it's resale red, convertible Corvette, mid-year C2, why not? Up on the block now, this is a 78 Ford Bronco we previewed just a few minutes ago, and now it's center stage.
Well, we're right to the start of the Radwood era, and you note the stripes down the side and up over the B-pillar. This is what Ford called the freewheeling package, and I believe you could also get some plaid interior in there if you really wanted to go crazy. 400 cubic inch V8, 4-speed manual transmission, 4-wheel drive, and a 4-inch lift. EFG mud terrain tires, bright red repaint, original style cabin with brand new upholstery and carpet in a solid dark red. Pretty sharp off-roader there. That the top, of course, is fiberglass and is removable. It takes some doing. The bumpers they could have been painted, could have been chromed, but now they're blacked out like the top is in a lot of the trim.
Yeah, by now, of course, they had gone to that second generation look with the much larger Ford Bronco. Remember, it started off with such a short wheelbase, and then Chevy came along and said, no, we're going to put it on a trunk chassis. It wasn't too long before Ford had to do the same thing because it was so popular.
Not too clean under the hood, evidence of maintenance, but not restoration. So here it is, tied for number 7th on the day.
Yet another $40,000 vehicle here at Barrett-Jackson. We have seen a ton of those crossing the block. Pickup truck time, a 1959 Chevy Apache Custom rolling up on the block.
So up until about 1957, American cars all had 7-inch round headlights, one on each side. Then, at the behest of the auto manufacturers, the big Detroit 3, the government approved smaller 5 3/4-inch headlights, and you could have 4 of them. This would be a dual high and low beam. This would be a high beam only, and all the manufacturers jumped to quad headlights because that was the shiny new thing.
1958, the first year for the quad headlights and the first year for the Apache. So this is the luxury pickup truck that I previewed at the beginning of the coverage today, and it replaced the Cameo, which had a fiberglass bed. This one still has sort of the design cues of the sedans as far as the rear treatment, the two-tone, all that stuff. They call it the fleet side bed. This is a new thing that came out with the Apache as well, to where the bed went over the wheels and to give you more room, and it looks better.
Yeah, the step-side bed would continue on for a couple of decades, and the reason that I was told that they continued the step-side bed is that farmers hauling livestock in the bed of the pickups did not want their animals tripping over the wheel wells, so they wanted a straight sides to the bed.
$40,000, Rod.
Yet another $40,000 sale here at Barrett-Jackson on Thursday. We have a ton of these that have crossed the block. Seems like a lot of people brought plenty of 20s with them today. Behind it, how about we had a Bronco just a moment ago. Now it's Blazer time. This one from 1974, but this one has a lot of custom touches.
Yeah, here's what's happened when you decapitate a Blazer or take that fiberglass roof. This, unlike the Bronco, this is a full fiberglass roof. And off it comes Omaha orange with white fender flares, a big lift, big wheels and tires, kind of fresh repaint, but ready to go anywhere you'd like. Off-road, on-road, doesn't matter.
Yeah, pretty dramatic conversion from stock as far as the lift on this thing with the fender flares, with those giant off-road mud terrains. But fuel injected upgrade as far as the 350 cubic inches is something you could have got under hood, not the fuel injection, that would have come later. And you can see that badging on the back, the Cheyenne package, which was a luxury trim. You look inside, and yeah, you do see some remnants of that Cheyenne package as far as the wood trim there, but it looks like upgraded bucket seats and a leather stitch dash, so it's been upgraded quite a bit.
Looking at these nutserts on the corner of the fender, apparently this used to wear a swing-out spare tire that would be on a metal armature here and swing away so the tailgate could be open. Long gone.
7. How many time I get 7? You want 7? How many down 5, 7 a bid. And 20 pound money get $7 here. How many down money but get paid 10 of my money. And 5, 800 pound money get down 7. You want 6, sir? And 26.
Well, I think this falls into the pure fun category, right? Just take it, have fun with it. But this money, $25,000, I think you're just going to enjoy yourself. It's not about buying something that's pristine. It's not about buying something that's show quality. This is about going out and having a 4-wheel drive Blazer. You can take it and have fun, probably 2-wheel drive.
We've seen $250,000 and above on Blazer builds, whereas the earlier versions and full convertibles, but they do crazy things like supercharged LT4s under the hood, crazy frame-off restorations and that kind of stuff. So they can bring huge money, and it definitely rising tide floats all boats. So this driver, $27,000.
I think for a lot of people, that would be a great car to have for $27,000. K5 Blazer, a lot of those custom touches, big wide wheels. All right, this is a car I've been looking forward to, a 1973 Datsun 240Z Custom.
Well, this is the car that put MG and Triumph, the British sports car industry, out of business. It was launched in late 1969, under $4,000. You got a 6-speed. You got disc brakes in the front. You got a 4-speed manual transmission, and it was a great grand touring car. This color has no name. You can call it yellow, green, lemon, lime, whatever. It is code 112, and that's how it appears in all Datsun nomenclature as code 112. Here's your overhead cam 6-cylinder. These are not the original carburetors. These are downdraft, I believe, Webers with adapters to go on the stock manifold. You got Hitachi, built under license from SU carburetors, stock. But my son and I have one in this tennis ball color. Absolutely love it. It is a great, capable Grand Touring sports car machine. Hats off to Bob Sharp, Peter Brock, and John Morton for making the 240Z famous, winning a lot of racing championships with it. And when I was 20, when this car debuted, and everybody wanted one.
That's how I ended up with an RX-7. I couldn't afford this when the RX-7 finally came out. By the way, this has the engine from a 280Z, so a later engine, slightly larger. But I love all the custom work they've done to this.
I noticed that and a 5-speed manual transmission. Did the 240 have the 5-speed as well? It's only a 4-speed.
No, it came with a 4-speed, but later versions, by the time you got to the 280ZX with the fuel-injected, 280Z with the fuel-injected engine, you could get a 5-speed, and then the 280ZX, the next generation car. But like the MGB GT, this was a very functional hatchback. A lot of luggage space back there. Very capable and very reliable sports car.
To your point earlier, that's why the British sports car industry was put under the bus, because these things started every single time. You didn't have to worry about whether the carburetors were properly in tune.
So yes, this was a factory color, 112. You could order this color, and it's my favorite. I love it, and that's why we own one.
Well, the way that one goes, congratulations. We got a brand new owner, and I don't think that was an ugly price. I think that was a good deal. All right, a 1957 Chevy Bel Air, and I believe this is the car that April Rose previewed at the very beginning of our broadcast. She was making that bold prediction this is going to go for big money. We're about to find out.
Well, it's easy to see why she thought that, because this thing is supposedly a 15,000-mile survivor. Other than the repaint, very original, and a lot of incredible factory accessories installed from the dealer. April pointed some of them out, like the compass and to see the lights, the visor, and a 2-speed V8 as well.
So this car was $2,338 before the options and extras. So apparently the Chevy dealer loaded everything on it they could find to pump the MSRP up to $3,260. That was a lot of money for a Chevrolet in 1957.
The Continental kit is another factory add-on, another way for the dealer to make a few extra bucks on the car, to add a bit of style there in the back and relocate the spare to the rear bumper, along with the bumperettes as far as the guards there on the front and back. So they installed that, even though the bumper guards aren't doing anything with the kits.
And this anodized aluminum trim, that was extra. That was an add-on. It matched the factory trim down the quarter pin. Lots of little add-ons, these little visors here, the protection from your fingernails so you didn't get into the paint there when opening the doors.
And under the hood, the original, the first year for the 283, moved from 265 to 283 in 1957. Good powerhouse, 2-barrel on this one here, single exhaust.
And that tri-tone interior, that's factory.
Totally original, unbelievable.
Yeah, only 15,000 miles according to the consignor, $42,000. All right, April, it's not going to be our top seller of the day, and I think that was a good deal because that's an awful lot of car. And with that, we are going to take a quick break here at Barrett-Jackson from our Thursday coverage in Palm Beach. It's been a great day so far. Who knows what expensive things are left across the block. Big money for a big car here at Barrett-Jackson. $65,000 the current bid on this 60 Cadillac Eldorado Seville.
Well, the Eldorado was a special build, so special it doesn't say Cadillac anywhere on it except the dashboard. The Eldorado has a lot of bespoke trim down the sides here, like regular Cadillacs do not have. Is that trim that starts at the base of the windshield and goes all the way back to the taillights. Very limited production build, 345 horse tri-power, top of the line.
Well, that gentleman who's bidding on the right-hand side with his bidder assistants, there you see one down just below it. The guy on top looks a little bit nervous. I think he's got the high bid, and he's hoping that he can hold on to it.
No Cadillac emblem, no Merlettes, Rick. Just says El Dorado. That's how special this was.
In a very application of a factory-applied vinyl top right here. Of course, all the rage in the 70s and 80s, but seen here for one of the first times on this 1959 Cadillac. 60, excuse me.
Well, I love the color, heather, poly purple, the interior to match. Just a great combination.
Up on the dashboard is the automatic headlight dimming device right there. It's basically a sensor that sees headlights coming in the distance, automatically dips the high beam so you don't have to do it. Autotronic eye.
I'll tell you what, that gentleman was in it to win it. He looked a little nervous multiple times, but $80,000, that's what it took to buy that 1960 Cadillac Eldorado Seville, that 390 cubic inch V8 under the hood. And with that, let's take a look at our top sellers, brought to you by Hagerty, and that Cadillac is now number one at $80,000. Another Caddy at number two at $67,000, and then what's number three? A VW Thing at $65,000. You want to break into our top five? It'll take at least $45,000 here at Barrett-Jackson on Thursday in Palm Beach. Right now, 2015 Land Rover Range Rover HSE up on the block.
Well, the Land Rover was considered to be mostly an off-road type vehicle. So they brought out the Range Rover line. I guess you could have called it the mall finder, because these things in luxurious towns, these were all the rage. Sure, they have some off-road chops, but most of these never found their way past the pavement. Very luxurious English all-wheel drive machines.
This one is a supercharged 5-liter with 510 horse, so I dare say it's a muscle SUV, as it were, all-wheel drive, of course. Supercharged motor. I believe this is an evolution of 3.5-liter V8 from General Motors of 1962. It's grown a lot. It's a 5-liter seen here.
22-inch custom wheels added to this one. And note the centers of those wheels are Rolls-Royce centers, and they do not turn. They are weighted, kind of like a gyro, so they always stay vertical no matter what direction the wheel is turning.
Well, $20,000 to those folks right there. They look pretty happy to take away that Land Rover Range Rover HSE. A little while ago, April Rose previewed a 1964 Corvette convertible, and it has now shown up on the auction block.
Well, it has the original engine and transmission, 327 4-valve 4-speed with 411 limited slip rear axle. It's all factory sub. Day 2 Cragar SS wheels, of course, 1964, the final year for drum brakes. 65 would bring us the discs, so final year for drums all the way around.
So I'm looking at the higher horsepower 365 horse with the aluminum valve covers. The base engine got orange steel valve covers, Wilwood aftermarket master cylinder, and brakes. I'm a little surprised to hear about the 411 rear end. That kind of meant you were going drag racing, because a 411 or even worse yet, a 456 would be incredibly high RPM on the highway. So this one wasn't ordered to go cruising. It was probably ordered to go a quarter mile at a time.
It's a Sprinter.
Well, it sprinted its way to $51,000, meaning it's solidly into our top five here at Barrett-Jackson and Palm Beach on Thursday.
It bears a Texas inspection sticker from some years ago. So it looks like this Corvette may have enjoyed most of its life down in a dry climate.
We like to talk about the outer exhaust tip. The tips come right out under the valance below the rear bumpers. Kind of cool touch there. Stainless rings around them to prevent staining or burning the fiberglass.
Red over red. Not sure that's a combination I would have chosen with the red bucket seats. It wears black carpets. Not sure what it was born with. White convertible top there. The only trouble with this Stingray body style is the front end. Hold it right there, please, because look at that pan underneath. A lot of front end lift at high speeds. You can get a spoiler to counter some of that, and you should if you're going to go race this.
$62,000 to that gentleman right there. Congratulations. I think he got himself a great car, an original 1964 Vet. Beautiful day here in South Florida, Palm Beach. Boy, Barrett Jackson couldn't pick a better week to be selling cars to new people who are finding new adventures. And look at the variety we've got out there. American iron, European stuff, and up on the block right now, a 1979 Camaro Z28.
Well, it really is a Z28. Has an aftermarket hood on it. Has a 383 upgrade. The original 350 block has been used as the root. 4-speed transmission, disc brakes up front, drums in the back, aluminum radiator right here to keep it cooler. Nice piece.
Yeah, nicely done. Nice engine upgrades. Much larger wheels and tires than it was born with. About this time, Chevy and Pontiac with the Camaro and Firebird realized they were losing sales to Mustang and other cars because they offered convertibles. The Camaro and Firebird did not. The answer? T-tops. Removable roof panels that, unlike the Corvette, didn't extend all the way to the center of the roof, but these were removable. You stored them you put them in a bag, you stored them in the trunk, and well, the seams leaked a lot.
And they rattled a lot.
Yeah, they did. Not a great solution. But the Z28 by now, stock, it was down to about 200 horsepower with all of these smog strangled regulations. However, the suspension under this car in '79 was the same as the great LT1 Z28s of 1970 and 71. So these were great corner carvers, just don't ask a lot of the stock engine.
Oh, and you have to remember, Ford was still building the Mustang II at this point. So this was still a full-size pony car.
I see a limited slip tag on the differential car. So in other words, you had to use a friction modifier in the lube or the clutches would chatter. It's a clutch-type differential, not a ratcheting piece, but a pretty tough piece.
$40,000, the hammer price to that gentleman wearing the Hemi hat right there. Congratulations to him. All right, now he's getting one Camaro, but coming up on Saturday, it's going to be a really cool Camaro that the Vice President of Consignment for Barrett Jackson, Mike McCullough, wants to preview.
We have a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Baldwin Motion Custom Topless Speedster. It's lot number 766. It's powered by a GM Crate LS3 hot cam V8 engine producing 500 horsepower. It's paired with a 6L90E automatic transmission. The fully custom interior is trimmed in Douglas Products red leather and Alcantara suede and includes a PCS push-button shifter with paddle shifters. The body was stripped to bare metal and refinished in this custom gray paint with red accents using base coat, clear coat, followed by wet sanding and buffing. Now in true Speedster fashion, this custom topless Speedster was built without a top and without any side windows. So it really gives it that true Speedster feel and form.
Look forward to seeing that. Meanwhile, we got a 2013 Lincoln Navigator custom limousine up on the block.
Well, every time we come to Barrett Jackson, I get to say, never have I ever, at least once, and here it is. This Lincoln Navigator has been given about a 2-foot stretch right on the seam of the B-pillar, right between the front and the rear doors. This section was added. So we'll get a look inside and see the result. Really nice tuxedo black metallic paint. Everything else all blackout trim. And there is where the owner and his guests sit in relative comfort. Pretty cool.
The work was done by a company called Executive Coach Builders. I can see framework underneath, so it's been fortified underneath as well.
Well, $13,000, that's the hammer price for that 2013 Lincoln Navigator custom limousine with extra stretch. Let's peek inside the McGuire staging lanes. What kind of variety do we have? Oh, I like that Royal Lancer right there. We got a Cuda, we got a Vet. And that great Volvo P1800 ES in the back. That's the great thing about Barrett Jackson. What a variety of cars that we get to see across the block. Meanwhile, another car that has gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years, a 1975 International Scout 2.
But the Scout came along in 1961 as the first SUV, kind of beat the Bronco and all the others to the market by a few years. The Scout 2 arrived in 73 or so and was available with a couple of different possibilities, straight six or the 345 cubic inch International V8, also used in buses, a very heavy-duty V8, gas-powered two-barrel carb on this one here, very original. I like the paint, very original, four-wheel drive, manual locking hubs up here, get out and get dirty when you're going to four-wheel drive, but a nice restoration.
Now look at Cliff, if you can hold him from moving this, look at the International Harvester emblem. It's an I and an H, but it's also a tractor. Those are the big rear wheels. There's the tractor body, and there's the driver. Kind of cute. The Scout name is coming back. Volkswagen owns the name. They have built a factory in the southeastern United States, and they're going to start producing pickups and SUVs and sell them through branded Scout dealers. So if you didn't get one, if you didn't buy this one, you will have your chance brand new coming up.
This was stored indoors for 20 years, 42,313 miles before the restoration, so a very solid example upon which to build. I love this. And Mike, the International Harvester logo was designed by Raymond Loewy.
Oh, very famous from the Pennsylvania Railroad GG1s and Studebakers and a whole lot of other great designs.
$50,000, the hammer price, I believe. That means it's now tied as the number 5 sale today. We've seen so many of these customized pretty wildly. It's nice to see one that looks pretty sedate as it crosses the block, and I absolutely love that color, that baby blue and white. 2008 Bentley Continental Flying Spur up on the block.
Yeah, beautiful car. 35,000 actual miles. No dings on its vehicle history report, the consignor says. 552 horsepower. Copy of the original window sticker. $188,000 when it was new. Glacier white, 20-inch Bentley wheels, saddle, leather, and beautiful burled wood.
And from the cowl forward, it's very much the same as the Continental GTC Coupe. Same basic engine, the all-wheel drive system, very much the same. Of course, longer for this four-door version.
They're pretty cars on the outside, but really, the inside is where you want to be. You want to climb in this and never leave. Look at all that gorgeous leather in the back. You just swaddled in it. All right, but the front seat is where the contrast is. We're going to let them move it down the block, and then we'll have a look. And the quality and the contrast of the two-tone leather and the burled wood is to me, unmatched anywhere in the automotive industry. I think just for the appearance of bathing yourself in luxury, right here is where you want to be. I mean, gosh, where do you even find wood like this with this kind of beautiful burl and grain, and it's repeated on the dash and on the console, the two-tone leather, the Wilton carpet, Connolly leather.
The consignor describes it having something called soft closed doors.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I'll be glad to show you, okay? So you start to close the door, and it pulls itself in the rest of the way to close it. Standard now on Porsche Cayenne and optional on a lot of luxury cars. Soft closed doors, sure.
$26,500 for a long wheelbase Flying Spur 2008 Bentley Continental. Plenty of luxury at a pretty reasonable price. And coming up, I love this car. It's going to be crossing the block. A 1955 Dodge Custom Royal Lancer, 270 cubic inches, 175 horsepower. And it's got the Power Flight automatic transmission. We'll see it soon. Beautiful day here in South Florida. The beaches are a wonderful place to hang out, but to be honest with you, you want to have a lot of fun? Well, you want to do it at Barrett-Jackson, because there's plenty of great cars crossing the block. And we got a great game. If you'd like to try and sharpen your bidding skills, perhaps win an amazing prize in the process, you'll want to play Fantasy Bid, brought to you by Dodge. Right now, April Rose is going to preview one of the cars that you will be predicting the price on.
That's right, Rick. I'm with this beautiful 2004 Ferrari 360 F1 Spider. Spider meaning the convertible, beautiful Rosa Corsa red. I mean, the body lines on the 360 are gorgeous. It just looks fast standing still. Inside that bonnet is hiding the original luggage and toolkit, which is really cool to come with. The wheels, custom HHR with those red Ferrari calipers, and you see that Scuderia shield sitting right above it. Now check the power in the back. Get back there. 3.5 V8 with the F1 automated manual transmission, and inside beautiful power leather seats, power soft top, and for the new buyer, it just had its $6,800 scheduled maintenance. And check this, it also has a laser jammer system integrated with the radar detector, which, Rick, I really need in my life. This is one sweet ride.
All right, thanks a lot, April. And that Ferrari will be crossing the block this Saturday, April 18th. So you want to make sure you play now. Terms and conditions apply. You have to be 18 to play. Visit promo.barrettjacksonfantasybid.com for the official rules. Who knows? You could walk away the grand prize winner. That's a 2026 Dodge Charger Scat Pack Plus. All right, let's join the block where there's plenty of great cars crossing, like this 1964 Ford Galaxie 500 XL Custom.
Well, the full-size Ford had a lot of different submodels. Kind of started with the Custom, then the Custom 500, then the Galaxie. On top of the Galaxie was the Galaxie 500, and at the very top was this, the Galaxie 500 XL. You got a lot of trim down the side to help identify it. 394 barrels, some Edelbrock add-ons there, and some wheels it was not born with, along with power disc brakes on the front. What you did get when you bought one of those big block Ford engines was down low on the front fender, you got a big call out that looked like an eagle with checkered flags and the number of cubic inches, but you had to read carefully to see that this was a 390 and not, say, a 427.
Of course, the XL meant bucket seats up front. Very sporty stuff for such a large car. This one has the X code, or Z code, 394 barrel. Modified a little bit. Of course, the optional R code 427 could have been had in one of these things. Of course, 63.5 would have been the fastback. 64 here, that fastback roofline became standardized. Roofline was very important on NASCAR super speedways, more aerodynamic than the box top. Beautiful restoration with some nice custom touches on this one.
$27,000 for a 1964 Ford Galaxie 500 XL Custom with a 390 cubic inch V8 engine underneath the hood. A little while ago, this was out in the staging lanes, and I glanced at the grill, and my first thought was, oh, it's a CUDA. And then I looked a little closer and realized, wait a minute, it's a little too new to be a CUDA. This is a 2015 Dodge Challenger RT convertible.
But I love what they've done here. They've taken the 1973-74 Plymouth CUDA grill and headlights and incorporated them onto this modern Challenger. I like it.
Pretty cool. It's, of course, the convertible is never done from the factory, but Drop Top Customs converted this one into a convertible. It's also a shaker, which is an unusual thing. That's a factory option for sure. It does work, although the air goes into the air filter down here. It's a tortuous circuit, but it does actually get cool air from outside into the engine. And a nice example of what could have been if Dodge decided to build these things. So Drop Top Customs did it for them.
And it has the big billboard stripes on the sides, as you would have seen back in 1970-71, with the engine call out on the door. Now about the color. Every Mopar guy knows this color. It's B5 blue. It is arguably the best color. You usually see it with a letter in front of B5, like 1970 would be EB5. Then FB5 for 71, the first letter would be designate the year. But yeah, that's my favorite Mopar color right there.
Of course, when the roof goes away, so too does a lot of rigidity. So I notice under the rocker some nice tubular structures welded in to restore that rigidity. So it's not a flexible flyer, despite the fact it does not have a roof.
I would guess we're at probably, I don't know, half the build cost or less. This is just an awesome bargain right here for a car. If you fondly remember the E-body CUDAs and Challengers of the early 70s, you want this.
Yeah, and you think about it, you don't get this in any other car. I mean, the ability to have this as a convertible, $38,000, I think that's a great buy. 2015 Dodge Challenger RT with that CUDA look. All right, this is another one of my favorite cars, a 1972 Volvo 1800 ES.
So the P1800 came out, I think, 1963 with a 1.8-liter four-cylinder pushrod Volvo motor, and these were just really neat, really sharp, and really reliable sports cars. But for the build-out version, at the end, they gave it a shooting brake body, the appearance of a station wagon. Very, very cool and rare, Steve.
Well, Volvo is a Swedish car. These bodies were built in England by Jensen and then shipped to Sweden for final assembly.
So the real party trick here is not the fastback with a separate trunk, but this, as I say, shooting brake style body with the glass hatch. And this was the final version of the 1800. They call it the 1800 ES, E for fuel injection, I believe.
Remember, too, that Jensen was a long-lived British company that built things like the Jensen Interceptor. So they had their chops in making cars. And, of course, Volvo sought them out to build these Sportsters here, the wagons.
These are rare and desirable, and the only thing I just noticed that would hold it back is this has an automatic transmission. Your sporting intentions would be better served with the stock 4-speed manual.
Yeah, but it is a shooting brake style. You know, you're not full sports car. I love this, and I think the automatic, I would take it happily, but $22,000, that's what it's going to sell for to that gentleman right there with that big, huge piece of glass in the back. I absolutely love the styling on this car. I think they absolutely nailed it. Remember, it was the Saint that used to drive the P1800 version of this, and now the 1800 ES goes away to a brand new owner here at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach. It's been a great day so far. So much auction action here on Thursday at Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach. Let's go right to the block, where right now a 2007 Bentley Continental GTC, a convertible, is center stage.
Beautiful car, 552 horsepower, moonbeam silver is the color, and it's base coat, clear coat to a very, very high gloss. Just a beautiful, great car to drive, and not a bad car to own. Just keep away from the service bay and the parts department where things can get a little expensive, but very, very sharp.
Of course, all-wheel drive, always on. It has the ability to turn itself on and off in foul weather.
And only 57,000 miles on the clock.
2-5, now 3, and now 3, now 3, now 5, now 5, 33,000, 33, 5, now 5.
Yeah, but what really matters is the performance coming out of a big luxury car. I mean, 550 horsepower, boy, just a great thing. $33,000. Well, congratulations to those folks. They are very excited to come away with that. Pickup truck time, a 1965 GMC 1500 up on the block.
Well, a great way to tell a GMC from a Chevrolet. Of course, GMC trucks had 4 headlights, Chevys had 2. This has the inline 6. The V6 was also a possibility in this vehicle. This has the inline 6, a more conventional engine.
Boy, a pretty repaint in what looks a lot like Porsche Miami Blue, but it's not. It's an original color. 4-speed manual transmission, 354 rear axle, presented very stock appearing. This is also out of the Boyd collection in North Carolina. It looks like this one has worn a cap over the bed. We see just kind of the rub scars of that having been there, and a bit of patina back here at the tailgate and the sides. So this one has been driven and worked and enjoyed, and now ready for its next adventure. Hey, how about this? I see an NHRA decal in the back. Did this maybe at one time haul somebody's car to the drag strip? I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I'll bet it did. There's surgery scars from where they removed the tow mirrors that were bolted to the doors, and I'm told the mirrors are back in the property room, and they will accompany the sale of this truck.
This is the custom cab. Notice the trim around the side of the door up high. Custom, this extra treatment, larger back window, the custom cab, of course.
So, $22,000, Rod.
$22,000, 1965 GMC 1500. Away it goes. Love that baby blue color right there. Barrett-Jackson.com, the place to go to get all of the details about the cars crossing the block. And, of course, you get the full list of cars that will be crossing over the course of the next 2 days as well. All right, a moment ago, we saw that 1965 GMC. Now we're going to dial it back more than a decade to 1953 for a Chevy 3100 pickup.
Well, this is also from the Boyds in Henderson, North Carolina. Note the upgrade to the chrome bumper and chrome grille and headlight bezels. Those are upgrades that could be done to make these pickups, well, a little more luxurious than utilitarian. But again, this one too, very stock appearing otherwise.
Under the hood, the 216 cubic inch overhead, it's a pushrod straight 6, very reliable. An evolution of the Blue Flame 6, which came out first in 1929 on Chevrolet products. Durable engine, pushrods, the Blue Flame 6 in Chevyland.
3-speed manual transmission and 3 on the tree. Now, here's an interesting thing over here on the steering column, because this truck, I guess, was not born with turn signals. So here is an aftermarket turn signal operating assembly there on the steering column, where you would expect to find it. Not there from the factory, however. Thanks.
29,000, do it fast. 28,000, 29,000, 28,000,
$28,000 for a 1953 Chevy 3100. Love the color, that resale red, part of that advanced design series. It looks great going underneath the lights here at Barrett-Jackson. A little while ago, we previewed a 1955 Dodge Custom Royal Lancer. It's up on the block now, and how can you not love this paint job?
Well, this is the last of the Boyd cars for today. We would call this a poodle skirt car. I said that to Charles Boyd, who is my age, and his 2 sons are here helping him bring these cars, and we all agreed that, yes, this is the car your girlfriend would wear her poodle skirt, and you'd go down to the local soda shop or ice cream shop, and this is what you'd drive.
And here's the red Ram, not a Hemi. It's basically a Polysphere engine. The Hemi was possible. It's a 250 cubic inch smaller engine, 2-barrel carburetor, cast iron intake manifold, cast iron exhaust manifold. But again, 270 cubic inches. The little Hemi was also possible, but not here.
Now, the Custom Royal Lancer was the absolute top of the line in 1955. You got a lot of extra chrome trim, and these chrome pieces bolt on top of the rounded fenders to give the appearance of fins, which this car would have 1 year later for 1956. A lot of gingerbread here.
It's a tri-tone. You have black, white, and sort of that purplish violet color. V8, of course, emblem on the quarter panel right there, because if you had a V8 in the 50s, you bragged about it. I don't see a radio. It has radio delete plates inside. You had to pay extra for the AM radio, which would have been installed, but you can see the plug plate down there. It's a basically stainless steel structure that covers up the hole that's otherwise there. Nice restoration, a hardtop two-door. Of course, Virgil Exner's power was just starting to kick in here. 6-volt power, 12-volt electricals, I believe, on these things for the first time.
So 1955, your car is here. I love what all the Detroit manufacturers did with their mid-50s two-tones.
The styling on this is great. I love that little chrome fin on the back. Reminds me of the 1953 Buick Skylark a little bit. And look at this. We're sitting at $14,000. I mean, where else are you going to be able to get this kind of style? And I mean, this is factory style. That color, that Paris rose poly underneath with the sapphire white up above and then the black top. All of those chrome elements. And if you're trying to replace those chrome elements today, it would cost you a fortune if you could find them.
It's got a Hemi in it.
Well, this one, it's actually a Polysphere engine. This has a 2-speed PowerFlight cast iron transmission with a little lever on the transmission, on the dashboard. There's a little tab right there you shift it with. Kind of a cool little deal. Not a column shifter, just a little tab that comes off of the fire at the dashboard. A little thing that says reverse, drive, and low. 2-speed cast iron PowerFlight 2-speed automatic transmission.
Well, kicking and screaming, they got this to 15.5. Is that where it's going to stop? Yes.
Yeah, the hammer went up several times. I thought I was going to sell it, and each time somebody would bid another $500. But eventually they pulled it off, $15,500. Once again, what a great looking car for the money. A 1955 Dodge Custom Royal Lancer. Gotta love that paint job. All right, you're more into muscle, you say. More something from the 70s? How about a 1974 Corvette convertible?
Well, on the hood, we see the L48, meaning it has the base engine, not the L82. Nothing wrong with that. Interesting little engine. 2-bolt mains. The L82 had 4-bolt mains. Of course, 4-bolt mains means the caps that hold the crank in are a little more bolstered. There's 4 bolts instead of 2. We'll pop the hood on this. Maybe you can see the cowl induction hood on this and see what we got. And yeah, there it is. The air cleaner is sealed. The cowl vent feeds air into that duct, which then feeds the air cleaner. It's cooler, denser air, something that was standard on all Corvettes. 454 was possible for one final year in 1974. Not on this one. This is also a 4-speed. That's a nice touch.
Numbers matching car, which means the engine, transmission, rear end are as it was born. Second year for the Endura front bumper, and the first year for the Endura rear bumper on Corvettes, which for this year only was molded in 2 pieces with a very visible seam down the center. Does that make it worth more? No. Does it make it worth less? No. It just makes it interesting for people who sweat the details.
It's a weird one-year detail. Some people like that stuff. The side pipes are not factory. An add-on gewgaw. That's okay, though.
He said, see you next trip. 21. 21 down, down, 20 down, going to be 1. 20,000, tell him again, 10, 20 down.
Now, obviously, we're past the peak of horsepower at this point, but it still has 195 horses. Now, the big question is, do you want those bumpers front and rear? You know, they're a different kind of look, but I mean, you got to think about it. Great styling, you know, great C3 Corvette from 1974. We're currently sitting at only $20,000.
Speaking of horsepower or lack of it, in 1979, the 305 was possible in a Corvette in California. Yeah, the 305 in a Corvette. Happened 1 year.
I think the value in the C3s, the money is in the early cars with the chrome bumpers, the higher compression V8s, and more horsepower.
All right, congratulations. You got for $22,000.
Well, just sold by telephone. You see the person in the upper right-hand side of the screen. She was talking with a telephone bidder, somebody who made an arrangement in advance with Barrett-Jackson. Away it goes, $22,000. And coming up, we saw a Ranchero a little earlier today. We got another one, but this one is from 1965, and it's a Ford Falcon Ranchero. Underneath the hood, though, is a really cool 289 cubic inch V8 and a 3-speed automatic transmission. Welcome back to Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach, out in the McGuire staging lane. Pretty wide collection of cars. We've got a Toyota pickup truck. We've got a Corvette, that Ranchero we were talking about. Mercedes, all kinds of fun stuff left across the block in our final hour of coverage here on Thursday. But of course, don't forget, we have 2 more days of coverage here, Friday and Saturday, from Palm Beach. Right now, we got a 2008 Maserati Gran Turismo up on the block.
Beautiful granite gray metallic with the beige leather and under 20,000 miles. Gosh, if cars could talk and explain where this has been sitting for the last 18 years. So just very little wear and tear on this one. Plenty of tread on the tires. A little stain on the back of the center of the rear seat. But otherwise, this looks like a go drive it and enjoy it. And it looks like for very little money. 4-cam V8, automatic transmission, paddle shifters. A lot of go for the dough, Rick.
I mean, you know, it's the first year for this body style, and it's a classic Grand Tour. It does have a back seat. I mean, it's not, you know, what I'd call a really usable back seat, kind of like a Mustang back seat. But if you need to stick people back there, or kids back there, as the case may be, you can at least do that. The way it sells for $27,000. Let's check in with April Rose.
Hey, Rick, I found a car that's selling tomorrow. This is a really sweet 1933 Ford Custom Woody. You got some pinstriping right on the nose up front. The hood or this grille is raked out just slightly like that old hot rod style, pod style headlights sitting up on those beautifully sculpted fenders. And check out these wheels, smaller in the front, bigger in the back there. That knockoff style gives it a beautiful stance. And these doors, they're suicide doors, but the poppers are right under here, these handles. You push underneath the trim to open it up, and you see that tongue and groove treatment right there in the door. Now there's no levers or switches. The window opens right here. You pull that down. I'm not going to do it right now, but that's how you open the window. Saddle brown leather, banjo style wheel in there, because of course you got to have a banjo style in one of these. Back here, come on and check out the tailgate. Opens up beautifully for all that fresh air, and it has dual exhaust. Now the power is a fuel-injected 350 LT1. It's got automatic transmission. And check this out, the color, Sherwin-Williams Planet 7000 Tangerine. Rick, that's way more fun than saying orange.
Yeah, who wants an orange? I want tangerine, and I love that color. I love all the wood, and I'm really impressed that you did not try to take that window down. You never know what can happen. And as you mentioned, that is a car that will be crossing the block tomorrow during our Friday coverage at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach. Meanwhile, we still got to get through Thursday, and right now we got a 2008 Mercedes-Benz SL550 AMG Sport Roadster.
I love the color. It's kind of a metallic Merlot. They call it Storm Red Metallic, and this was only available for a year or two. This is the SL550 with the V8 stone interior, and the AMG front and rear valences have been added, as somebody's bolted an AMG sticker on the back as well. Beautiful car.
All right, they looked like they were just about to hammer it closed. At the last second, the bidder's assistant like, wait, I think I may have a little bit more. And sure enough, he was able to pull it off.
And before this leaves the property, it will just barely touch 50,000 miles.
Well, there it goes, $24,500 to those folks right there. I just love the way the bidder's assistant was able to get that extra little bit out of it to make sure you want it, you want it. And it looks like they won it. Congratulations to both of them. One of my favorite cars up in the block right now, a 1991 BMW 850i. Love the design of this car.
Yeah, first iteration of the 8 Series from BMW, competitors to, say, the Porsche 928. And this is not just an 850i, it's an Alpina. Alpina, a German touring firm. They have upgraded this car with wheels, spoiler, air dam, and perhaps some engine and suspension enhancements.
It still has a crisp styling. Of course, Chris Bangle arrived to give these things the flame surface look, which kind of watered down the shape. This is more shapely, of pure of the BMW style. It has the characteristic B-pillar with the kick here, Hofmeister kink. Beautiful car before the Bangle butt came into play a year later.
5-liter, 24-valve, single overhead cam V12 with automatic transmission.
Tell you what, it's a very sleek car. I mean, this has a drag coefficient of 0.29, which is really, really good. Especially, when you look at the car, it doesn't look as sleek as you realize it is. I just love the style. Like you mentioned, first year for this look.
Yeah, this was not a competitor, say, to the Mercedes SL, but to the Mercedes CL, the big, large Mercedes coupe. This is not a small car by any means, and of course it does have a V12.
And now it has a new owner, $18,500 for that 1991 BMW 850, that 24-valve V12 engine. All right, we've seen plenty of Jaguars cross the block, but we don't see many at Barrett-Jackson from this vintage as a sedan, a 1966 Jaguar 3.8S.
Well, you say sedan. In England, they say saloon, and they raced these. The grille shape and design is copied from the Jaguar XK150 two-seat sports car. Jaguar 3.8 liter. That's the size of that big dual overhead cam straight six.
That motor was basically shared with the E-Type Jag that went for many, many years. Great little engine, hemispherical combustion chambers in there, aluminum head, iron block. Great example of efficiency. Independent rear suspension with the disc brakes mounted inboard next to the differential, not outboard. So less less wheel weights, better handling, but again, four-door saloon, pretty heavy car, but very exotic. And
Rebuilt original engine and drivetrain, including the 4-speed manual transmission and electric overdrive on this one. Power rack and pinion steering, Connolly leather and Wilton carpet, and a whole lot of burled wood. Just beautiful inside. Okay, not quite Bentley quality, but not Bentley priced either.
has an adjustable steering column. There's a knob there that allows you to set the steering column in or out to accommodate your chests. Manual, column shifted, transmission.
Wears modern base coat, clear coat paint. Faithful Automotive Services in Huntington, New York did the restoration of this with a 50-page written narrative and photos describing the full restoration.
Unusual knockoff wheels on a saloon, too, often seen on E-types.
Well, this is another one of those from the Legacy on Wheels collection, and it just got sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $12,000. I got to think that's a great, great deal, considering what you just got with all of that history on the restoration. We are going to take a quick break. We will come back to the Barrett-Jackson auction here in Palm Beach, because guess what? More great cars are left across the block. Don't go away. Well, at every Barrett-Jackson auction, before we get to the work of selling cars, we have a lot of fun. And this week was no exception. Here inside the auction arena, they were doing something completely different than selling cars. They had a lot of fun. There was plenty of music. There was plenty of camaraderie. It's a chance for, well, the buyers and the consigners to all get together before the intensity ramps up. Just another thing that Barrett-Jackson does to build a great community as part of their consigners and buyers world. Up on the block right now, a 1999 Toyota Tacoma just sold, and we're about to go into a 1999 Suburban K2500.
This may look like a mild-mannered 90 Suburban, but it's actually the 3/4 ton, hence the 2500 badging. So the heavier duty as far as towing, but also heavier duty engine, 454 cubic inch V8. This is the last generation to get that style, but then they moved on to the 8.1 liter after that. But this is a pretty cool rig.
Yeah, 7.4 liters to the metric people at 454 cubes. First arrived in 1970 in big block muscle cars, family cars too, but in this vehicle here, lots of torque to move this down the road, including a trailer, a motor home, whatever. You can tow a big Airstream behind this thing with no problems.
The other easy way to tell is the 8-lug wheels, which they only got with a 3/4 ton and the 1 ton. The half ton would have been 6 lugs because you have those beefier axles on this. But if you wanted 3 rows of seating, but you still wanted all the towing capacity, this was the truck to get. And nowadays, well, the half tons can tow just as much as the 3/4 tons. There's not much difference.
And this does have 3 rows and seating and seat belts for everybody. One choice you had to make on the Suburban was the choice of the rear barn doors or the tailgate with the retractable window. This has the barn doors.
And this has a new owner, $12,000 for that 1999 GMC Suburban K2500 with a big Vortex 7.4 liter V8 engine. A little while ago, we previewed a Ranchero that was coming to the block, and guess what? It has arrived. Now, this is a lot different than the earlier Ranchero we saw. That was a big chassis. This is the 65, smaller, built on the Falcon chassis.
So this is the square body Falcon, 1964-65. And the Ranchero just wasn't built out of nothing and nowhere clean. It's not a clean sheet of paper design. Ford took the 2-door Falcon station wagon, which was very much a utility vehicle, and instead of having the floor stamping with the hollow out for the footwells for the rear seat, they just added some more bed material there. That's why the bed here is in 2 pieces. Left the back half of the roof off, used the same tailgate they used for the station wagon, and you have a Ranchero.
This was born a C-Code 289 two-barrel, has been upgraded with an Edelbrock dual-plane intake, aluminum with a small Holley 4-barrel, so 250 horse, something like that. Lots of pep. C4 3-speed automatic transmission.
Hang off the dashboard air conditioning. You see the big compressor for it there. Yeah, 289 styled steel wheels, deluxe trim, the deluxe version of the Ranchero. I mean, I love my 60 El Camino, but it's huge. It takes up too much room in my garage. Prior to that, I had a 65 Ranchero. It was nice, it was compact, took it anywhere, hauled anything in the back. I miss it.
I see a 9-inch Ford rear axle, not the 8-inch. So the Ranchero's got the 8-inch or 9-inch with the V8, as seen here. The 9-inch has a more round appearance as viewed from the rear, whereas the 8-inch has a flat bottom and a flat top. Same basic guts inside, but a larger ring rear, more strength.
Tell you what, for $14,500, I love that car. I think that's a great buy. A 1965 Falcon Ranchero with that 289. I love the look of that.
I do too. Our producer, Neil Sullivan, is a big Falcon fan. He has one up home in Northampton, Mass. Uses it as an ice cream car. Cool.
Well, we often say the cars are the stars here at Barrett-Jackson, but April Rose has found that some of the cars actually have real star power.
A common theme among the wild cards here at Barrett-Jackson is pop culture. When you throw that in the equation, you never know where the numbers are going to land. This could bring all the money. It's a screen-used Ferrari 308 from Magnum PI. The only thing more iconic than Tom Selleck's mustache was this car. But they don't have to be the real deal to capture your heart. Like this Land Rover Defender 90 Barbie edition. It is dripping in pink and white everywhere. Engine bay, interior, undercarriage, all pink and white. Or how about a cartoon car that never existed in real life until now? Yep, the Mach 5 from Speed Racer, based on a 1996 Corvette. Now the C4 Corvette is a great platform for this wild tri-tip body, buzzsaws and pogo stick jumping ability not included. And sometimes it's just a celebrity name attached that gets people excited. 1976 450 SL Mercedes, beautifully preserved in olive green everywhere. And it's being sold by none other than Will Ferrell, and I definitely say the era of Ron Burgundy. And perhaps the most Florida vehicle of them all, 1985 Gentry Turbo Eagle Scarab racing boat that was once piloted by the legend himself, Don Johnson, who defined 80s style in Miami Vice. What will they go for? We'll find out soon.
Yeah, Will Ferrell's Mercedes will sell tomorrow. The rest of those we'll see crossing the auction block on Saturday. Right now we got a 2012 BMW 650i convertible up on the block.
Boy, beautiful car, an Executive Express, a drop top, one where the back window is vertical and it comes up to be a wind blocker. Otherwise, kind of hides in plain sight. 76,000 miles on this one, and this is the restyle version of the 650, so the bangle butt is absent and a much more traditional looking rear end.
They also did a host of mechanical upgrades with these facelift. This is the desirable engine here. The 650, in this instance, meant a twin turbocharged V8. Earlier it was on 850, it was a V12. Well, now the 50 signified the V8, and the 40 would have been like an inline or twin turbo 6-cylinder. So over 400 horsepower in this thing.
One cool touch that hides in plain sight is the trunk latch release. Where is it? It's right here. How about that?
Well, Steve talks about the art of the exhaust. How about the art of the trunk latch? There's so many hidden things in cars that if you know what to look for, they're there. And that one just sold for $13,000. Remember, the original sticker price now more than $90,000. And away it goes to a brand new owner for just a small fraction of that price. As it goes away, we're going to take a quick break as well because we're getting near the end of our Barrett-Jackson Thursday coverage. But don't go away just yet. We still have some fun stuff left to cross the block. know, we get spoiled here at Barrett Jackson. We see so many amazing cars on a regular basis. Cars, you know, if you saw them at a car show, you'd be like, oh, that's awesome. And here we see them all the time. Up there now, we got a 2015 Maserati Quattroporte SQ4.
Yeah, beautiful car in passion blue metallic. Now, they went to a V6 engine for these for 2015. Still at 404 horsepower, 406 foot-pounds of torque, 8-speed automatic with passion shifters. All-wheel drive luxury sedan and touch control navigation with what then was a large 8-inch diagonal display.
This was a big transition for Maserati, getting away from that Ferrari-derived V8, which a lot of people do miss, but the twin-turbo V6 puts out similar horsepower. Getting that all-wheel drive did open up a lot more buyers as far as for all seasons and also better handling, so you have an improvement there.
See a lot of dark tint on the windows and the windshield on this one. Not sure that's legal in every state, but I mean, that's at least an 80% tint, would you say? It's not quite 100%, but it's pretty close. So this probably lived its life in a very warm and sunny climate.
Wow, didn't he make $10,000? $8,000 for that Q4, the all-wheel edition 2015. They're nodding their heads. Yep, they like that as a good buy. Congratulations. All right, a 2005 Ford F-250 Lariat pickup.
Well, this one's a hauler. It's got the deluxe Lariat interior trim, but it's got the Power Stroke turbo diesel and a 6-speed manual. Have you priced diesel fuel lately? Oh my gosh.
I'm ready to blow your mind, Mike. Look how clean this truck is. Over 250,000 miles on it. So whoever had this thing, I mean, kept it cherry. It is unbelievably clean considering the miles. And yeah, it must have been custom ordered because nobody did the Lariat, the luxury package, with a 6-speed manual transmission. So they want to row their own gears, best transmission to tow with, but be comfortable. The dealers didn't order them this way.
Well, I want whoever preserved this to come detail my cars because you're right, Tyler. I mean, this looks like a 40,000-mile truck, not a 200,000+ mile truck. Got the big tank in the back. It is set up for a fifth wheel or gooseneck hitch, plus a 2-inch receiver in the back. So yeah, this one is built to haul.
And this is the 6-liter Power Stroke, or replaced the 7.3 that was sort of a legend. The 6-liter was known for blowing its head gaskets and didn't have as good of a reputation, but once it's been bulletproof, as they called it, with the better head studs and the better head gaskets, they turned out to be pretty durable engines. As you can see, over 250,000 miles on this one, and it seems to be running great.
Well, if you're going to spend days at a time or weeks hauling cross country, you might as well do it in luxury. In the Lariat trim, it's full leather interior, very luxurious. I like this build. I like this a lot.
To your point, Tyler, you know, 250,000 miles on a diesel, if they bulletproofed it, boy, this is barely broken in now.
TW going to be 16.5. Now 17. 17,000 too. 17,000.
I just got the exact mileage, 277,000 miles on it. I knew it was up there, and yeah, it still smells brand new inside. Of course, inside it's a Lariat package and it has wood trim and all that stuff. It's all fake plastic, all simulated. The leather's real, but it does kind of upgrade the experience. I believe you could get heated seats as well. So nice interior choice with that one, and very rare to see the manual transmission. That's what really makes this special.
$19,000 for that 2005 Ford F-250 Lariat. And as that sells, we're going to check in with April Rose.
Hey, Rick, I'm under one of the many tents here at Barrett Jackson that you can hang out throughout the week and check out these beautiful cars like this one here selling tomorrow, Florit Friday. This is a 1967 Bronco. I love these first-generation bodies, and they've blown up at Barrett Jackson, not literally, metaphorically, because builders choose them to restore them and customize them, and this one is gorgeous. Black painted grille. You got your off-road steel bumper up front, light bar tucked in neatly right there, and she is big. She's lifted, 35-inch tires, 5.5-inch suspension lift. And check out these beautiful wheels, 20-inch wheels. You got your diamond plating on the rocker down here. Inside, Rick, the most comfortable seats ever. I think I want to spend the rest of the broadcast in there. Look at the bolstering. Even the red diamond stitching shines. Beautiful teak wheel. And the best part, come on back here, RJ. Check this out. These jerry cans have been turned into speakers. That is sweet. Now, the power's from a fuel-injected Blueprint 5-liter. I mean, just a little bit more power than she was born with. This is going to be fun watching go across the block tomorrow, Rick.
I'll tell you what, what's not to like? I love how they've tucked that light bar in at the very front, the way they've turned those gas cans into speakers. Boy, everything is really nice about that. And then look, those are the cars that are coming up on Saturday. Plenty of amazing machinery that we'll see here at Barrett-Jackson. Back here at Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach, the 2019 Chevy Silverado 1500 pickup is up on the block. Right now the current bid is $15,000, but there's a story.
Well, it's a very highly optioned truck. However, its vehicle history report says it's been in 2 accidents, suffered severe damage, was total lost by the insurance company, and then rebuilt on a rebuildable salvage title.
Well, I'm looking close. I don't see any signs of battle scars, with the exception of the left rear corner. The rubber is flanged, but with that, it looks good otherwise.
Well, congratulations to those folks. They come away with a pretty nice car, assuming it's all going to work just right, and it should. All right, behind it, a 1974 Volkswagen Super Beetle convertible, and the super word means something.
Indeed, McPherson strut suspension up front. It basically has struts instead of the torsion bars found in others, thus the wider track up front to make room for those struts. Wider hood, too.
Because by now, the Beetle had been in production for 20 years. It was getting very long in the tooth. The suspension was designed in the 1940s. So improvements had to be made. They didn't want to replace the Beetle. They just wanted to make it better. Hence the Super Beetle.
And here's the struts up here. You can see the very tops of them. And again, they're gas charged. It's a spring that's in the McPherson strut on both sides. Thus the wider engine bay or hood, and skin, and also the space between the fenders.
And where did they relocate the fuel fill to?
It's over here. This actually has a fuel door and a regular gas cap. Previous Beetles, you had to lift the hood to get to the fuel cap.
That's what I was looking. I was looking for the fuel fill under the hood, and it was gone. So they made that a little more practical as well, along with making it a lot wider. And this one looks to be in fantastic condition as far as the convertible top, the paint, and all that.
Well, it just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $20,000 for that 1974 VW Super Beetle convertible. You know, before the cars sell here at Barrett-Jackson every day, they sell automobilia. Let's check out some of the things that sold this morning. Like this 1950s, it's called a U-Selected to restored Hershey's chocolate coin-operated candy vending machine, sold for $5,200. How about this late 50s Signal Oil, it's restored gas pump, that sold for $10,000. And if you're feeling hungry, well, you'll love this White Castle single-sided light-up restaurant sign. That sold this morning for $10,500. And guess what? The cost of that automobilia goes up every day as well, just like the cars at the auction. Right now, we got a 2013 Mercedes-Benz SL 550 Roadster.
Well, again, the 429 horsepower V8, 7-speed shiftable automatic. This is the first one that I've seen with the bright red exterior and the dark red interior that you usually see with a silver paint job. So it's a different enough color from the exterior so that it doesn't look like, say, a mid-60s Chrysler with matching inside and out. Just kind of a different look. AMG styling package front and rear.
This is the final facelift of this R230 generation. We've seen them all today. The first that came out in 2003, the facelift in 2008 or 9, and then this. 130,000 miles on this one, so that's what's holding back the price. Hi, Miles.
2013 Mercedes SL 550 just sold here at Barrett-Jackson for $12,000. All right, let's check in with company CEO Craig Jackson, who has a preview of a very cool Ferrari that's going to cross the block on Saturday.
We have a 2020 Ferrari 488 Pista. This is lot number 756. It is powered by the 3.9-liter twin-turbo V8, paired with the 7-speed double automatic transmission. It is equipped with the adaptive front lighting system, suspension lifter, and black ceramic exhaust pipes. The interior includes the safety yellow belts, and it also has the prancing horse stitched into the headrest, but also a lot of carbon on the inside. A lot of Alcantara inside of it. Exterior elements include the carbon fiber front flaps, the side air splitter, the front air vents, the under door cover and the rear moldings, a racing stripe, and the 20-inch forged rims complete the exterior. It really is very cool when you look at it.
And there it is in our showcase room, sitting amongst all those other spectacular cars that are also going to be crossing the block on Saturday. That Mercedes right next to it, the Porsches down the line, plenty of great stuff. Once again, big Saturday. Up on the block right now, 2005 BMW 645.
Well, you've heard Rick describe the bangle butt, and this is it. First applied to the BMW 7 Series, the big sedan, then the 6 Series. The fender sweeps back here. The trunk line whips around here. Totally unlike anything else that was on the road. Very distinctive. Do you love it? Do you not? I kind of like it.
Well, it just sold for $11,000 for that 2005 BMW 645 CI convertible. Let's check out the top sellers for today, Thursday. Number 3 on the day is a bit of a surprise. A 1973 VW Thing. It sold for $65,000. I think that was a big shock to a lot of folks in the room. The top 2 are both Cadillacs, a 1952 Cadillac Series 62, but this one very custom. The top had been chopped off. It's a Roadster purely. This sold for $67,000. And the number 1 sale of the day, another Cadillac, a 1960 Cadillac Eldorado Seville. That color is heather poly purple. And I'll tell you what, the room loved it to the point that it sold for $80,000. And that's the number 1 sale of the day so far. Of course, we still have a few cars left across the block. Anything's possible. Well, I think that's going to end up the day as number 1. Right now, we got a 1996 Corvette up on the block.
End of the line for the C4 Corvette right here. Kind of at the height of its powers by this point. The LT1 with 330 horsepower, replacing the 230 horse L98. This one has a 700 R4 4-speed overdrive automatic. Very tidy car, looks good.
Has the base Cuisinart wheels, and this one has a bit of a checkered past. It was involved in an accident. I'm sorry, we don't know the extent of it, only that it was described as moderate damage and then repaired. That will hold the number back, as well as the base engine and the automatic transmission.
I have a 1987 Corvette, 4-speed car. I love the thing. It's the poor man's Corvette, but it's a great value for the money. I paid $6,000 for it and enjoy it every day when it's dry.
I had an Admiral Blue C4 new with a 6-speed automatic. Didn't know I'd bought an economy car. I left the Daytona 500, drove up 95 to Brunswick, Georgia, 28 miles to the gallon. Cool.
Well, this one just sold for $8,000 for that 96 Corvette, the 5.7-liter V8 engine. Congratulations to those folks right there. All right, the last car we're going to see crossing the block. Might not even get to see it sell, but if you want to see the final price, just go to Barrett-Jackson.com. A 2007 Mercedes-Benz CLK 350 Cabriolet.
Well, the smaller of the 2+2 Mercedes convertibles, 268 horsepower from that 3.5-liter V6. Fire opal red with an off-white interior, keyless go, and navigation.
That grille's been upgraded for a bit more bling, all the chrome there. I would have had chrome wheels to match it as well, the very factory stock looking wheels, but overall looks to be in very nice condition inside out. 79,000 miles and great options.
So that's a wrap for today from Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach, but consider that just a little taste of what's still to come this week. We have 14 more hours of live auction action coming to you over the course of the next 2 days, including 7 hours on FYI tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So for Mike Joy, Steve Magnante, Tyler Hoover, April Rose, and our entire amazing team, I'm Rick DeBrule. Thanks for riding along with us today. We'll see you tomorrow from the Sunshine State.